a color sign. Yeah, really, especially with all the masks.
Yeah, that would have been a definite no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay, folks, I think we're getting ready to start. I think I waved by mistake. Oh, well. It is 6 o'clock. So with that, I'm going to call the meeting of the Select Board for September 28th to order. And here comes Joy. Perfect timing. All right, so let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Okay. Okay, so we will jump right into the meeting here. We don't have any public hearings or presentations this evening. We'll start off with our new format of having an open time for the public. If anyone has anything, we allocate a few minutes at the beginning of the meeting. Go ahead.
Hi, Nelda Cohen, 12 Montgomery Road.
You might need to pull the mic down just a little bit.
Did I sound okay last time?
I don't know, but it looked like it was high, so that's fine. There you go. I think that's fine.
Okay. So I have returned. The last meeting, I asked a question of the Select Board as to when they signed or approved the engagement letter for the auditors. So that's my primary reason. Does anybody have an answer?
I don't know that I have the date, but I know that the chair at the time signed the letter, right? With Ed.
Correct.
I don't know that I have a date on that, though.
Can we get that to her to know that the date of the letter?
You want me to go research that?
No, I said,
I can help you. I have a copy of the letter.
I was going to say, the minutes are online, so.
okay,
Yeah, I have a copy of the letter.
okay.
The
Why
letter
you
was
asking?
sent to the town on October 27th, 2020. And you, Maureen, signed it on November 19th, 2020. And I'd just like to know why no one on this board shared that information. Did you do it in a public meeting? Did you sign the
I have
contract?
to go back, Nilda, and kind of look at that.
It does not have to be signed in a public meeting. It should.
always
That
has
information,
been.
I don't have that information on the top
It
of
has
my
to be
head.
voted
So-
in a public meeting, but it does not have to be signed in a
Or
public
was it
meeting.
voted at a public meeting? Because I
to
looked
go
at the
back and-
agendas.
We'd have to go back and look at the minutes from
Go back and look at
from
it.
November meeting. I did not focus on that for this meeting, sorry. That's my fault for not putting it on the agenda to look at it.
So when do you expect to find an answer?
We'll have a chance to look at the meeting video, I guess, before the next meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, what about the other questions I posed to the board in my memorandum? And
There was
the
one about
memos
the
before that?
Or about the reports and about the zoning board not being on there. We're still obviously working on getting the reports up to date. We've got a brand-new accountant who started Monday. We're going to be talking tonight about what he's going to focus on and what we're going to do to pick up and do some
But you know, that's
adjustments
been
for
the same,
2021.
that's been the same comment that's been made for months,
And we still are shorthanded, have been shorthanded, and we've been
But what
working
about
with
the
them personally.
board? The board should be operating separately.
Well, we have been trying to do our best to help out and make things move faster. And
Okay.
there's only so many things you
Well,
can do. There's
at
many
this-
priorities.
I have hesitated from sending this to the state in terms of getting the Secretary of State to get answers for me. Is that what you want?
So, point of order, Madam Chair, is this for statements to be made or for debate between the public and the board? I do believe that
Statements to be
if
made.
questions were presented to us, then we should answer those questions back, but I don't
We do.
think it's proper to entertain and
Yeah.
debate.
And what we would most likely do would be to put them in writing to you. But I've not
Okay,
had a
well
chance
then,
to do
that's
that.
fine.
So,
But 2 weeks ago, I came.
you
And I
did.
know everybody's busy, but this is important.
Mm-hmm.
The financial status of this town is in question.
Understood. We share your point of view, and we will do our best to get something in writing to you for the next meeting, all right?
Okay, all right. I will hold up from submitting all of my memos to the state, because there are a few, until I get an answer from you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Open time for the public. You're good for a change? All right, well, that's short. Yes, please.
Hugh Scott, Pomeroy Meadow Road. I had 3 questions. At the meeting two weeks ago, Mr. Gibson stated that one of his top priorities was to develop a long-term capital plan. And I wondered if we could get a progress report on that as the first question. The second question being, which dovetails into it, is do we have a current long-term capital plan? And if so, what is it?
Okay. Well, if I might suggest, we have one of our department reports tonight, and that is actually the Capital Improvement Committee. So they might be able to also answer that, since they're the ones that look at all the capital requests that come up before every year's budget.
Okay?
So if you might, I don't know, Margaret, do you think you can speak to that or not?
Slightly, yes. I'll be able to.
Okay. I know we have long-term plans from the various departments, highway, police, and fire, in terms of their fleets, their vehicle replacement fleets or equipment replacement fleets, if that's what you're referring to, or something more than that?
Well, that's certainly a part of it. I mean, we just voted down an override on buying a new truck for the highway department, so that obviously was outside of their capital plan. And that's what I wondered, is if we had, I mean, I would assume we have short, medium, and long-range capital plans.
I'll definitely address that.
Okay.
Okay? And the last question was there were 2 or 3 people here that voiced some IT concerns. And I wondered if there was any movement towards solving their committee, the department or committee's efficiency needs with IT. And as Mr. Lumbra pointed out, it becomes a one-time capital expense versus an ongoing employee employment expense. And I wondered if anything had moved on that, if anyone had any conversations on that.
And again, you've hit the right meeting, because we have the tech committee reporting out tonight.
Okay?
And they just actually met this week and should be able to give us the latest update of what they're working on.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Open time? All right. If not, let's move to the quarterly reports. And the first one on the list is actually the Capital Improvement Committee. So Margaret, if you'd like to come up.
Hi, I'm Margaret Larson. I live at 9 David Street, and I think you all now have a copy? Okay, so Ed and I are having some email challenges, but now you have it.
Yep.
So we, as a capital improvement committee, do not meet regularly. We meet, during kind of the budget season. So what I thought I'd do today is talk a little bit about our process and how it works for us on capital and how that relates to the town expenditures. So we are permitted 5 members. We currently have 4. We're looking for another. And our process generally begins in November, and that's when the town administrator provides the request forms to all the town departments. So we generally will get requests from all of the departments. We occasionally get requests from Hampshire Regional, but those are only for huge projects like the HVAC system, roofing, the remodeling, things like that. So generally, these are our town-specific expenses. So we define a capital asset as anything that has a useful life of at least 1 year and has a purchase cost of at least $5,000. We can also take a class of assets, which means that those are individual items that might cost less than $5,000, but because we need so many of them, the cost might go beyond 5,000. So 25,000 is generally what we look for a class of assets. So as an example would be radios for the police department or safety vests for the police department. So those are things that might be a class of assets that we need to purchase. We generally, we can't include items that could be part of someone's regular operating budget. So in terms of expenditures for technology, it really depends on the useful life of those items as well as the cost and whether or not we feel that could be part of a regular operating budget for a particular department. So when we get those, we look at those in comparison to the budget that we have. So this is a percentage of free cash that we are allocated. And so for last year, for example, our monies that we had to spend was $152,000. Our requests were in excess of $682,000. So although we certainly need a capital plan, it's something that I've identified in here as a need. All the departments have one. I think we need a global one. I think it needs to be posted on our website. But that is highly dependent on what we're able to provide as a town. So that doesn't mean necessarily that those things will happen, particularly if we need an override or a debt exclusion for any of those. So when we get an item from the departments, we look first at anything that might be able to be removed because it just doesn't fit the classification. We also look at items that might be better suited for alternative funding. So if we have something like the dump truck, which exceeded our entire capital expenditure budget, then we have to move that aside and provide a recommendation to Select Board about how we handle that. And we also look for grants or community preservation funds when we can. We've been able to do that successfully a few times. We then generally prioritize as follows, and I don't want to make it sound like this happens in one meeting, because this happens over 5 or 6 meetings. We go back and forth and we re-examine, and we invite all of the department chairs to talk about their priorities with us. So the first item is generally items related to safety. So something like the doors at Norris, their phone system, the senior center entrance. Charlie, Knickie, and I went to Norris and looked at some of their needs that they had for safety reasons, and that year we were able to prioritize some of those. We look at anything that might be obsolete, particularly when the department may not meet Commonwealth standards. So this is much more common when it comes to fire and police. There might be, their vests or other protective equipment that they have to replace every so often. And so their capital plan shows that they're replacing that every 5 years. They replace a few of them every couple years. Then we look at priority items as established by the department heads. So it is rare to have a department request one item. They generally request more than one. We ask them to prioritize those, and then we examine those in the priority order. And then finally, we look at requests from departments who haven't recently submitted requests or had them granted. So we do try to spread the capital budget as we can, when we can. So our short-term priorities, we need to gather requests for the upcoming year. I would love to get another voting member. I believe we need a 20-year capital plan that is together, and I know Ed has started working on some things. I have a couple spreadsheets. It's a matter of getting together and doing this. We've had a series of chairs over the years, so I think this might be our year to do this.
Yeah, we started with a 5 and we've pushed it to try to get to a 10, so,
Yeah.
yes.
When I look at what other towns and cities, municipalities have done, they generally will have a 15 to 20-year plan. It's certainly what we have at the high school. And some of those municipalities actually have a priority sheet where you have a checklist, and we tried that. We borrowed one from Minneapolis, but it emphasized age or like the number of years of service over safety concerns. In fact, I don't even think safety was on it. And so it kept doing weird things when we came to a vote. It kept prioritizing things over items that might help protect our children. So we jettisoned that. And also long-term is just our budget shortfalls as our equipment ages. So, I don't know honestly how it works with the town budget, if there is any kind of additional funding that we can provide for capital, but I see that as a huge need. So when we first started, certainly Charlie and I were adamant that we needed to keep some kind of reserve in the fund, 10%, something. And I think the first year we were able to do that. And then the next year it came down a little bit. And this last year, our amount in the leftover was $584. And that doesn't allow for any contingencies, any emergencies that come up during the year. So, that's something that we have concerns about long-term, is just making this more than just a 4 or 5 month committee. I feel like it should be something where we are meeting more consistently and looking at long-term needs and not just year to year.
Very good. Yeah,
Any questions?
good. Anybody?
Sorry, I
Any
just
questions?
blathered that all at you.
No, that's very helpful. I think for those of us that have not been involved directly with the Capital Improvement Committee, that's very, very helpful. So, because I know you get multiple requests, and we never have enough money to go around. So
Yeah,
trying to
we'll
figure
get
out how
10 to
you
12, we'll get 10 to
prioritize.
12 requests.
This is helpful to understand that the safety and then the other obsolete ones, et cetera, come into play
Yeah.
in terms of your thinking at least. So, any questions on it?
I was just going to ask, now that we have a grant subcommittee, does the capital committee at all shift any of the requests that they might get?
We haven't,
Might
but
be
we
qualified.
certainly, I think that would probably be something we could do. It's just, we need to be concerned about the timing of it.
Yeah.
So if a request is for something that there's an immediate need for it, depending on the grant cycle, we would need to know that sooner than later.
But if they had your list and they became aware of grants and they could feed
Correct.
it to you, I mean, there's a
Yes,
nice match there, and just, they have a very good track record to date. I know it's a new committee, but they're doing well.
yep.
Good, okay. Any other questions?
Anything else?
Comments? No?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret, appreciate it. All right. Okay. Next one on our list is personnel policies and procedures. We have a report in our packet. John, do you want to speak to that, or? aren't you the
No,
liaison?
I don't, because we actually discussed it, and as my understanding is, it's not the intent for the liaison to report out from the committee, but
Correct.
for the committee to report so that
Correct.
the other members of the select board, are hearing a different point of view. So I think the written report by the clerk and the vice chair should stand on its own.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about this report? Was this voted on in committee? What was outlined here? Was this a vote in the committee to approve this report?
No, it was done outside of a meeting. I would say that it fairly summarizes at least the past 3 meetings that I've been at.
Yeah, but it basically gives the personnel updates in terms of new hires and separations and so forth, and their plans to finalize rules and regulations.
Which I would anticipate probably within 2 months that coming out for a public hearing.
Okay. Okay. Okay, all right. Any other thoughts about this? Shall we just keep on moving then? Or you have other discussion you'd like to have? All right. Okay, hearing none. The third report out is our ad hoc tech committee.
All right, first for introductions, I'm Daniel LaValle, 17 Glendale Road.
David Rooks, 189 College Highway.
Mike Jagger is the chair. He had a situation tonight. He couldn't make it, so instead of getting him, you get both of us. He had actually put together a little PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if you can share that. That might be.
We have it printed out.
Yeah, we
don't
did
have
get it.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
So, yeah.
That's good. So, in summary, in 2021 was a productive year for the Adhoc Technology Committee. We were and are focused on several technology improvement initiatives for the town of Southampton, as well as seeking funding for major technology needs such as cybersecurity, disaster recovery, software upgrades, and website design hosting, among others. We are also building relationships in the community. We are in the process of installing CARES Act laptops for the town. Pleased to announce the select board, oh yeah, you have all the text. Yeah. It didn't print out on mine. I was going to try to guess. Process of the CARES Act laptops for the town, and hope we have to have these to be in use by the end of the year. We are pleased to announce and recommend to the select board that we have worked with a vendor who has built a custom quote for a new state-of-the-art telephone system for the town. This quote provides significant cost savings over the current provider while providing huge increases in capabilities. The committee highly recommends that the portion of these savings proceeds be used to increase the town's broadband capabilities. We're also recommending a partnership with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, PVPC, to assist the town with many technology issues. We are diligently working on a technology grant and have teamed up with the PVPC to help the town understand our cybersecurity and disaster recovery needs so that those needs can be properly translated into meaningful grant applications. The committee looks forward to serving the town in the future. I think, David, do you want to talk a little bit about the phone system? It's probably the next.
Yeah, next
Maybe
item on.
start with the laptops.
Yeah, the next item on here is the laptops. So there was some funding that had been secured. I'll just work off of this, I think. Okay. Some funding that had been secured to purchase a handful of laptops for key members of staff here. There are 8 workstations that are still need to be deployed. I've been working closely with Ed and the vendor that they were purchased from to try to nail down the final dates to get those out. The goal, worst case scenario, is get them all deployed and in use by the end of the year. I think some of the issues we ran into, or the team that was deploying them that ran into, was some of the third-party software, some of the special features and functions that are being used in various departments. So that's ongoing. We will keep everybody kind of in the loop as those finish up.
It's not a simple plug and play.
It is not a simple plug and play. There's always gotchas in those situations. So the phone system is something I've been pretty close to. My understanding, I guess a little bit of background for anybody who's not aware, there's a lot of Verizon copper lines that are in town here. Kind of everybody has their own number, so you don't have a lot of that interdepartmental functionality that you would get with a kind of a business grade phone system. So we were working with a vendor in the area that has partnered with a lot of government agencies, education. I know they work up at the school, and healthcare institutions in the area. And they put together a quote for a state-of-the-art voice over IP phone system that would replace the majority of those copper lines that are here in Town Hall. Just, I guess, a quick spattering of some of the features that we don't believe are in place now that would be very helpful for the town in general is implementation of an auto attendant. The example I gave here is, you call in to one number, you press 1 for the building inspector, press 2 for this department, so you can do your internal routing right by calling into one number. Music on hold or announcements on hold if there's anything that's relevant to the public, while you're waiting to get connected to who you're trying to reach out to, that can be placed on the system as well. Extension to extension transferring, I'm sure, is a big problem here. Being able to take a call, send it over to Ed, et cetera. Remote voicemail access, God forbid we're in a situation where everybody needs to work remotely, they still have access to their voicemail. You can actually set it up so voicemail can get delivered to your email, so you're receiving that. You don't have to be specifically right here to get that. Simultaneous or sequential ring, if you want something to ring on your cell phone as well, if you're out to lunch or just not in the office at that time. Call forwarding, do not disturb, call waiting. Caller ID, you can specifically, one of the things called out here is you can set all the caller ID to actually be that one main number. So if somebody calls back, it's routed not directly to whoever placed that outbound call. A couple other items that they had thrown out there is they're offering this vendor's offering a conference room phone, which would be great for meetings and everything along those lines. A portal to self-serve. One of the things that we see as a gap here is not always having dedicated staff to maintain, update the various pieces of the phone system, along with other elements in technology. This has a self-serve portal, so you have the ability to change extensions, unlock voicemail boxes and everything all yourself, all in-house. Just a quick overview on the cost. So the current telecom expense is about $550, all, again, Verizon copper lines.
That's per what?
I'm sorry?
Per what? Per what frequency? 553?
Oh, I'm sorry, for monthly, you're looking at about $500, $553.07 monthly. The new quote is actually coming in at $290.64 per month. One of the things that we've highly recommended that I think will help out across the board is increasing the bandwidth here. You got a lot of folks that are working on a network and it has a pretty low speed connection. So while you're saving a good amount of money, we are recommending that you reinvest $100 to upgrade the circuit speed here, which still yields $162.43 per month in savings over what you have in place now. So we're looking at this as kind of a win-win. Again, I've personally worked with the company that provided the quote and am very confident that they could do a good job in terms of getting this rolled out. Any questions on that? I know that's a lot of information.
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
So the, some of the telephone lines we'd have to keep,
Yes.
right? The elevator and the alarm system.
Correct,
Right.
alarm systems.
And are these numbers just for town hall? Or are you including police and highway? Are you including all the public buildings?
I believe in this quote it was town hall and the highway department.
Okay. And then, at the end of this, you guys are suggesting we upgrade, but not go as far as to have fiber in the building. So then we end up with the VoIP and the network all on the same line. And you think that stress test would pass on a 200?
Correct. So we actually talked, Ed has been working with the gentleman who actually manages the firewall here. And the firewall that you have downstairs in the IT closet is capable of quality of service, so you can actually segment out a specific amount of bandwidth that's just for voice traffic. So it kind of protects that so you don't run into issues if somebody has a big download or something like that. It's not going to impact the phone system.
Okay. And then the, and under, what, is this exempt from procurement? Like, it sounds like you worked with one particular vendor. And a lease is I'm just curious, maybe the question hasn't been raised yet, but a lease is a form of debt.
Right, so it was our understanding, and anybody can chime in here, it was our understanding because the term was less than 36 months, is that accurate, Ed?
Correct.
That because it's less than a certain amount of funding spread out over a certain amount of
That it didn't have to comply with 32B.
Correct, that was my understanding.
Okay.
We did have that conversation.
Yeah, the other thing I failed to mention here is a lot of the time when you're deploying a new phone system, you have to purchase a lot of the handsets and a lot of the equipment up front. We had looked at that as being a potential obstacle in terms of getting this into play and not having the funds to do this right off the bat. So the pricing that we put forward actually includes the cost of all of those handsets spread out over that term. So after 36 months, the price actually drops down to $228.26 per month. So once you hit that 37th month, the savings are even a little bit higher.
Rini, you had a question?
I have a couple questions. First of all, thank you for all your work. I mean, having this committee is just a huge benefit to the town, so thank you. I think the questions I have are actually for Ed. The first one is, you mentioned about the laptops and the holdup. They're purchased though, right? Because we have only until the end of the year under the CARES Act
I know
to
they're
purchase. Okay, they're all purchased. It was just really the software rollout, or? Yeah.
It's the deployment and making sure that, it really is a like-for-like transfer to, no impact to workflow and everything along those lines.
Okay, the second one is, at some point along the budget process, we did talk about increasing broadband in this building. I didn't know if it was part of the operating budget in a separate line. I don't know if it was part of the override at the time. Do you remember that, Ed?
My memory is it was part of the override.
Okay. And what would it involve to consider transferring cost savings?
It would have taken us up one additional tier from where we currently are, and it would have added approximately $100 a month to our costs.
Okay.
Which is what we're proposing here, moving up one tier is an extra $100.
So you've added that into your calculations here?
Yeah, we wanted to show you what your savings would be in the end, because we are being conservative, like John pointed out about the.
Be sure you're speaking in the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like John pointed out about the data throughput, adding VoIP, you have extra data, so moving up that extra to the higher tier gives us more security, or not security, but a level of comfort that the telephone systems will operate smoothly and handle all the other data traffic that's happening within and out of the building.
Gotcha.
And I guess one other thing, just for context, voice packets or voice traffic for these systems is actually very, very small. It's just very sensitive, so you need to make sure that it's protected. It's not that it's going to add a whole lot more throughput that would impact the overall speed or capabilities of that circuit here. But it is absolutely a consideration, so thank you for calling that out.
Could I just ask?
Yes.
Okay. The engagement that you're talking about with PVPC for IT support,
Right.
does that include any procurement, preferential procurement, so that we don't find ourselves in a situation of having equipment and not having, the whole installation package going along with it?
So,
Like the Hampshire County of Government used to work.
yeah, so they're a new committee that's forming, and they're more of an advisory role, and they would give us advice as to which companies we could look for the services, not mandating that those are the ones that you use. Just saying, like, maybe we get into talking about the grant a little bit, about they had recommend some groups for looking at cybersecurity, and
They do have a preferred vendor, Dan. This Novus Insight is a preferred vendor that they've vetted and used for 3 years.
Okay.
This is the Pioneer Valley Municipal IT Collaborative that I brought up, I don't know, last meeting or the meeting before. And so that is working with several towns in the area, several small towns like us, trying to do some of the same kinds of things. And so part of that would be advantageous to be part of a collaborative. I believe the cost is $400 a year, and it does allow us not only to share problems and solutions with other communities, but it does allow us access to preferred vendors that have already been vetted.
Okay, good, thank you.
Well said. So, I guess, do we want to continue past the telephone conversation, or is there more questions?
I just have one, and it's not necessarily a question, it's more of a comment, if it hasn't already come up, or put it on your radar for an answer. But I'm very familiar with VoIP, so, and the capabilities that it has. I'm a little concerned about rolling those capabilities out in a government entity. So you mentioned the reference of the voicemails going to your emails, and it can either be, depending on which version you're talking here, it's either going to come in as a text or it's going to come in as a recording. The answer that I would look for is, I believe then that becomes a public record, which probably cannot be deleted. And who's going to be the custodian of those?
One of the things that we've talked about in our group is about the policies for data retention.
Microphone.
One of the things we've talked about, and more microphones. One of the things we've talked about in our committee is the policies around data retention, and not only just, we're talking about phone calls in this case, but the length of time for emails, for other electronic data. So I think that is an item that we have identified and actually are looking at in our grant application to put those policies and procedures in place for the employees and the members of the committees in town, so that it's defined. So yeah, that's something that we're working on too.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. All right, maybe onto the grant
Oh, right.
that you're working on?
Yep, so the grant we're working on is really focused around the concept of cybersecurity and disaster recovery. And we were really lucky that we found this teaming arrangement with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission because of the group they recommended us reaching out to. They came out here for a day and worked with us, no charge, talking about solutions and helping us formulate and look at vulnerabilities. And so now that we had that information together, we're going to be looking at applying for the grant and moving forward with that. So that will look at protecting our citizens' data and protecting this town hall network. So that's really the overall goal. And there's after it's all written, I'm sure you all see it, but there's areas talking about data and disaster recovery, data storage, data management, all those areas. So,
As well as some training, maybe for employees?
yeah, sorry, there's so much in it. It's hard to remember it all.
Yeah.
And obviously, whenever you come up with a new procedure, training is an imperative, right? You can't just write it down on a document. You take the time and you educate the people so they know how to properly implement it. So that's part of the consideration, part of the grant that we're chasing after now. That is due October 15th. So
Yeah, this is the Community Compact IT grant that the deadline is October 15th, so they're working on it. Very good.
we're hoping that it comes up with a win. It would right now it's roughly around $80K that would bring into the town of cybersecurity technology upgrades. So
Okay.
it'd be a
Thank
good
you.
thing. The last thing to mention is we have also established a relationship with Easthampton Media. Unfortunately, as we all know, Jen Ramsey is leaving, but Mike Yeager is now on their board, so we have that connection established. So
Great.
we'll be continuing that into the future.
Very good. Okay. Great. Anybody have any comments, questions?
And you have a member on your committee that's actually the IT person from the schools, is that right?
Oh, yeah, that's
So
right.
that's an important connection too.
Yeah, she's great. She's been very
From
helpful.
Florida.
Yeah.
And worth mentioning, she also has experience both with the telecom vendor that we were meeting with that platform, administration of it and everything. So she's vouched for their rollout of it and, the ongoing maintenance and their self-serve portal as well. So I think she actually initially helped kind of get that into the works.
Yeah, she's definitely a powerhouse. She's pushing us through this grant very quickly. So we're lucky.
Good. All right. Great.
Are you at the point where you've actually gotten a threat assessment on the system? Has the current insurance carrier given you a scorecard? Or no, you're not at that stage yet?
I don't know anything about the insurance carrier.
Yeah. We've got the MIA in the package. Do you want to speak to that, Ed, in terms of what they offer?
That they do. We do have a cybersecurity coverage with them. I reached out. Currently, they do offer web-based training, but they do not offer any physical assessments of your system.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
I just have one question.
Yeah,
When is this telephone project happening? Is there a timeline for that?
So I guess we're kind of looking to you because we hold no money. right? We've given your board the information, and we're looking for you to make a decision on it. And we can move forward with it after you have decided, well, yes, of course. So, yeah, it's now in your hands.
Whose department do the phone bills sit under, or are they spread?
Yeah, should be spread out. Yeah.
So would there, in this transition from the old system to the new system, do you expect any disruption? Are they talking about that at all? Or we're just going to
So
play
John-
the play?
David's the expert.
I worked in telecom for probably 15 years in total, so I've definitely been through a handful of these. You know, the real critical piece is when you port your numbers over, whatever published numbers you have are going to get ported over to the new carrier, who will then point them at the new phone system. It is pretty common practice to just do that when you guys are not operating on the phone system. So that would be planned with everybody's approval to say, you know, whether it's a Friday, whether it's, 6 o'clock at night or something like that. That's when they would swing all the numbers over, do all the testing. So when everybody comes in ready to work, everything's been tested, all the handsets are running, and you're good to go. So.
And is the first thing we have to do, though, to do that, to also get our upgrade of our tier with Charter in order to handle the VoIP?
I would recommend doing that first. I mean, that's going to be kind of the foundation that all this is going to run over. So Ed, I know you and I talked about trying to get that into play, trying to get the QoS settings on the firewall put into place. Let that burn in a little bit, make sure it's tested, make sure, everything's rock solid before you move traffic over to the internet there.
Okay. Does anybody else, given that this is maybe coming before us fairly soon, does anybody have further questions that they'd like the tech committee to work on and provide answers for us? We've got some idea of some costing ideas. Is there anything in particular that you've got, or you'd like to think about it and come back with questions at some point?
This is a summary of a formal proposal that you already received, correct?
Right.
So I'd want to see the full
Formal proposal,
proposal.
okay.
And then some clarification about, written policy before the phone rollout. And I agree, you have to upgrade the service before that.
Sure. So Ed, does it make sense that we compile all the most recent quotes and information? We have like their feature set and everything for everybody to review and just funnel that through you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
pass that on to Ed and he'll get it on to us.
Okay,
That would be fine.
easy enough.
Okay, good.
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys. You
Got it.
Thank you.
appreciate the committee's work. You've been very diligent at trying to look at various issues here and figuring out what we have and what we need, so. We'll see if we can jump into the 21st century pretty soon. Hopefully. All right, so that's it for the department committee reports tonight. Just an announcement for the next one. For the beginning of October meeting, the first meeting in October, we are asking for reports from Community Preservation, Conservation Committee, Open Space Committee, and the Parks Commission. Okay, that's the first meeting in October. Second meeting in October will be the Planning Board, Zoning Board, Housing Commission, and the Master Plan Implementation Committee. Okay? Thanks very much. I appreciate everybody getting your information to us ahead of time, and really appreciate you being able to be here too, to present your things. So that's great. All right, moving on. We have a few appointments and resignations tonight. So let's start with that. We have a resignation from Michael Bueller from the Greenway Committee.
I'll make a motion to approve his resignation.
Okay. Anybody second that?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I just want to say thank you to him. He's been a longtime member of the Greenway Committee and has really worked very hard to advance the cause over many years.
Yeah, I think Mike has been around at least since around 2014, thereabouts at least, and he certainly is an institutional memory force on the Greenway Committee. So we thank him for his time and know that he will do his best to pass on information to the current committee. There's Aaron Tauscher is the new president, and he's jumping right in as well. So, all right. So all in favor? Could we have a vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
I just want to let folks know that we do have a letter from him, and at the end it says, thanks to, well, he provided some documents, and he says, I very much look forward to being at the ribbon cutting.
Very good. Okay. All right. Next appointment, Charlie Kinnicky, Public Safety Committee, and Rini, since you're the liaison, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, so first of all, I'll make a motion to approve Charlie Kinnicky for the Public Safety Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Okay, do you have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Or do you want discussion? Discussion
Yeah, go to
first?
discussion.
All right.
So there is a couple of letters, go ahead.
Yes.
I'm just going to do one clarification, and this is for both the Public Safety Committee and the Greenway Committee. Is traditionally, they have been done term to completion.
Okay.
I am recommending that you don't do that in these two committees, just so that we don't lose track of who's appointed at any particular time, and that we switch over to three-year terms. So I just want to point that out to the board.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the June 30th date,
Right.
2024, is correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, very good, thank you for that. All right, yeah, Rini, go ahead.
Right,
There's a
so
couple
there were
letters.
two letters that came in of support, one by Dawn Warren and one by Janet Brown. Is Janet still there? You're hiding behind the podium.
She's there.
So I don't know if are they in the packet here? Because I got them, but, oh, they are, okay. Let me just take a minute to find them. If you have them handy, that'd be helpful. Yep, first one is from Don Warren. Please accept this letter as my personal recommendation for the appointment of Charlie Kinnicky to this committee. His 40 years of experience with the Southampton Fire Department will be invaluable going forward with the planning and construction of a new facility. Sincerely yours, Don Warren, Chairman Pro Temp and Southampton Public Safety Committee, also member of Historical. And then Janet Brown, I might have buried in there. I thought we had it in here somewhere. I just wasn't, I thought I was going to read it on my laptop, but I unfortunately forgot my laptop.
It's not, hold on. It's here.
I didn't receive the one from Janet Brown, so that one is not in the
I
packet.
did. Yeah, let me,
All right, if you can read it, that would be great, because I forgot my laptop.
okay.
Or she's here.
Yeah, Janet,
she
you
can
have
read
it?
Yes, by all means.
Jenny, you want to come up to the
Yes.
podium?
Come on up, sorry.
Just make sure,
Yeah, all right. That's it. Yeah, okay, very good. All right, that's Janet.
thanks, Janet. This is Sir Janet Brown. She's a member of the Public Safety Building Committee. Reinstatement of Charlie Kinnicky. Today's date, please accept this letter as my endorsement to reinstate Charlie Kinnicky to the Public Safety Building Committee. Charlie's very aware of the needs of our town and the different concerns under consideration for the complex. We made progress when he was a member, and we look forward to go forward with his reinstatement. Thank you, Janet Brown. Thank you, Janet, and Dawn.
All right. Okay, so we have two letters of support. Any further thoughts and discussion?
Well, discussion.
John?
First of all, I'm not opposed to this at all, but I think it points out, I still feel strongly that we don't have one solid location where every available position is posted. Like, we need two people on finance. We have a pending on the PPQ. We have
Yeah.
capital committee looking, and again, I'm not opposed to this appointment at all. I just think we as a board need to do a better job
Yeah.
about saying, here are the 50 openings within the town, and not wait for somebody to find it on their own and come forward
Yeah.
and get it out there so we can fill
True,
all
yeah,
these
and
seats.
they are right now, the various positions are open on the, they are posted on the volunteer page of the website for the Greenway, for finance, for capital, I believe they're on there,
Okay,
on the volunteer page in the website. So you have to scroll over to the volunteer jobs page and then scroll down, and you'll see that there are vacancies there to be,
and it's a full list. You think it's the full list?
I think it's pretty accurate. I'm not positive it's absolutely full.
I'm sure there's some that aren't on there. There's
There might be.
always some that
Yeah, but I think,
I may not think of when
yeah,
it gets updated, but
yeah, so,
I'll compare what the master list says to that, and if there's any other ones, we'll add them.
All right,
okay,
thanks.
I just want to.
yes.
So I support Charlie being on the committee. I think as a previous firefighter and also EMD and member of the committee in the past, I think he'll be a big help to the committee. I had talked to the select board about getting a meeting going, and so I sent an email out to folks this week, and I spoke to Dawn about coming up with a couple of dates So that I hope to have happen by the end of the month. But I just want to say something in general about the Public Safety Committee, Building Committee. It existed long before I got back involved in town boards. And I think that public support for the Public Safety Committee is incredibly important. I think right now, the public support is leaning in the, towards the Greenway. It came up number one as the master plan interest of the town, and maybe the public safety complex was a little bit further down, but I know 5 years ago when I was running for select board, when I went door to door, it was by far the number one thing I heard. So I think with Williamsburg and Westhampton now working towards building a public safety committee, I think it's really long overdue for Southampton to do this. But I think that public support is incredibly important, and I know it existed long before I came here, and I know that before I got involved here, there was land that was purchased behind the fire station, and it was submitted to town meeting, and it was, I think, $11 million price tag, and it was not supported by the town. It was $1 million of that was excavation, and so there was land that was purchased that we currently own. And then I think the pendulum has swung from renovate the existing buildings to build a new building. And then we ended up purchasing the land next to the police station, which I was on the board at that time. I very much supported that because whether it's for septic or if it's for an access to Route 10, I think regardless of the future of that building, I think that it's a good decision. But I think that I've read and I've heard from townspeople that's very disappointed. Why do we keep building, why do we keep buying land here, buying land there? So I'm just going to ask when we have the first meeting of the Public Safety Committee that there's be a commitment on the part of the committee to work very much together, to communicate only in committee meetings, to not do behind-the-scenes communication. And so I'm hoping that everybody that recommits to this committee remains optimistic and not get discouraged about the starts and stops, and that we try to get public support and move forward for a Public Safety Committee.
Good. Yep, and that's fine. I think even though it didn't come up as the top priority during the community survey last year, it was certainly on there. Nonetheless, it's definitely a need, and I think just about everybody would, if anybody's ever looked at there and toured either the fire station or the police station, you would be very hard pressed not to say that you support the idea of doing something for our public safety complex. And our challenge has been finding the right place for it in particular. And so we have some land. I know Ian and John have looked into other land and came back with some very, very steep price tag, unfortunately, about another spot that might be good. But that will be, I'm sure, discussed in all your committee meetings. So, good. So with that, any other comments? If not, can we, I think we have a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, very good. Charlie's
Thanks,
here.
Charlie. Can I ask-
Charlie's here. All right, very good.
Actually, sorry, Charlie, we didn't ask you to
I
come up
didn't
and...
even see you there, sorry. Recognize people without masks.
You had so much endorsement. I have a question
Yeah,
about, I have a question about the Public Safety Committee, because everybody else in the committee right now is until completion. Are we going to reappoint people with staggered terms, or I guess that's something we have to decide?
Yeah, it might be
Okay.
worthwhile doing over the
And the same
next
for the
few
Greenway?
months. Same thing for the Greenway.
Okay.
Yep.
Charlie, do you want to say a few words?
I'll make us change our vote.
Congratulations.
Back again.
Hi, I'm Charlie Konecki. Are you sure? I brought with me the 2012 report of a Public Safety Building Committee. I want to leave the copy here so your board members can all look at this. I think you'll find it fascinating because this was very comprehensively done, showed what lands the town owned it, showed what the needs were, compared us to other communities. So I think you'll enjoy this document, and thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yep. Perfect. Thanks, Charlie. I'll circulate around. Perfect. Okay. Good. All right. Next on the list, we have an appointment for Jacob Lehan for the Conservation Commission to fill the vacancy of Joy Piper, term to expire June 30th, 2024. All right. Could I have a motion?
I move to appoint Jacob Lehan to fill my prior vacancy on the Conservation Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Okay. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
All right. Discussion. Jacob, you're here. Would you like to come up and introduce yourself? Give us a little background here. We've got your CV, but for those that are just listening, just give us a a snapshot of who you are. And
Great, yeah, good evening. Thank you for keeping me on the front page of the agenda. I appreciate that. So my name is Jacob Lehan. I have a bachelor's in environmental science and regional planning from Westfield State, and I actually live in Easthampton. But as we talked about, this is upon the completion of a vacancy. So I have 4 years of experience in environmental conservation, 2.5 years working for the Department of Fish and Game, and I've always wanted to join a conservation commission. It's good experience, and if appointed tonight, I will be able to finish the necessary documentation to be sworn in tomorrow with the town clerk, and then I'll be able to vote next Monday in our first meeting of October, and I will then also be able to attend the Fall Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners, fall annual meeting in October as well.
great, good. All right, wonderful, thank you. Sounds like you've got just the right background for Concom here.
Yeah,
so-
we're really excited. Yes, by the way,
Very
the
good.
Conservation Commission unanimously voted to support his appointment. And yeah, we saw his resume and met him at our last meeting, or they met him at the last meeting. But we're very excited that you are volunteering your time to Southampton with all of your expertise. So I'll leave it to the board to vote.
Very good, okay. So any further discussion? Okay, if not, we have a motion on the table. Can I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
Welcome,
for
Jacob.
stepping up.
Glad to have you, thank you. All right. And next, we have 2 for the Greenway Committee, and I think we may as well just take them together. Ellen Sengas and Mark Cassis. Both terms to expire June 30th, 2024. And these would be appointments to the Greenway Committee. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll recommend both Ellen Sengas and Mark Cassis to the Greenway Committee.
Second.
Term to expire June 30, 2024.
Okay. And again, since you're both here, would you like to come up and say hello in a few words?
Hello, my name is Ellen Senghas. We live on 19 Fomer Road, and I've been living in this town for a long time, I think since 1982. I'm a pediatrician and an internist. In practice primary care for about 40 years. The last few of those years was primarily in addiction treatment and disability consultation. I was also the school physician at Norris for I don't even know how many years, but only recently stopped that when I retired. So I love biking, and I am very excited about linking Southampton to both Westfield and Easthampton, and happy to roll up my sleeves and pitch in.
Very good, thank you. Great, thank you. All right, Mark?
Hello, everyone. Mark Cassis, 19 Fomer Road. Again, excited to be able to work on an important priority for the town. My background, besides my work background, had been a physician and retired now, but I also had been on the Conservation Commission for the town. I've been on the board of Winding River Land Conservancy, had written the land grant for the town that the state got to basically purchase Wolf Hill, and helped usher it through the town, so understand at least some of the processes as they were 10 years ago or so, and willing to put energy into what I think is an important priority.
Very good, great,
So
thank you.
get a chance to work with everyone.
All right. Any discussion, comments? All right. All those in favor of appointing, let's just do both of them together, if that's okay?
Yes.
Ellen and Mark, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Congratulations, you're signed up officially. Now you just have to get sworn in. So you'll
you.
end up seeing
Thanks, Dan.
the town clerk and get sworn in. Okay, that will be it. And then you'd be fully official, I guess, okay? So thanks for stepping up, much appreciated. It's good to see some new faces and old faces together, but nonetheless, new blood on the committees and getting some new perspectives. So thank everybody for joining in. All right, moving on to basic reports. How about Ed and the town administrator report?
Sure. The town has been notified from the state that the Park Commission is receiving a $100,000 Park PARC grant to place a stone walking path in Conant Park and also a splash pad. This grant will require a town meeting vote, so we will need to have a special town meeting by the beginning of December of 2021. Our town accountant, Bradley Oxen, started in his new position yesterday, Monday, September 27th, and is settling in just fine. And yes, he did come back for a second day of work. The pickleball construction has progressed nicely. The paving for the 2 new courts in Conant Park was done yesterday. The asphalt will now have to set and cure for 3 weeks before the surfacing material may be added to it. The fence for the courts will be added over that 3-week period of time while it's settling and curing. And the Pioneer Valley Railroad has stated that they will be honoring the terms of the letter of agreement from February 2018 for the town to acquire the right-of-way for the Greenway for the section of the railroad between the Easthampton, Southampton town line to Sheldon's Ice Cream on Route 10.
That's excellent.
And just to remind you, the assessor's office will be open on Mondays from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., Tuesdays from 9 a.m. to noon, and also on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. while they are looking to fill the principal assessor vacancy. The temporary part-time principal assessor, David Zagorski, has started working in that office. And then upcoming select board meetings for October are the 12th and the 26th.
Okay. Great. Very good. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ed? All right. If not, let's move on to...
Can I just ask one question?
Yes, go ahead.
So the deadline of the December for the park, for the town meeting?
Yes.
So that, given the pandemic and the last 3 to 4 town meetings have all been outdoors, and December being a lot colder than the other ones, perhaps there should be something set up for a meeting of sorts. Is it the thought that it would be in this building or in the school, or?
I would think the school again,
Okay.
yes. So, I mean, the select board will have to work with the moderator and town clerk to choose a date, and then we'll have to check with the school and make sure that that date is available.
And there won't be any other considerations in terms of recash and budget issue items? We're not going to, usually lately it's been like January or even February.
Well,
So
usually it's been in February, so.
so there's not going to be any,
Yeah.
we can
I
do it
don't,
all in one meeting?
yeah, I don't envision those being ready, but just like we did this year, there is not a reason that the free cash cannot be dispersed by the policy into the 3 accounts, the OPEB account, the capital stabilization account, or the operating stabilization account at the beginning of the annual town meeting. Or you can actually schedule a short special town meeting on the same day, just like half an hour earlier than the annual town meeting, and take care of anything that you would consider to be, a special town meeting, so
Like we
it's
did
ready
last year.
for the ATM, yes.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So that's something we'll have to be discussing in terms of what kind of a date we need to choose, because the requirement for that grant is that there has to be a town meeting vote before the end of the calendar year.
Calendar year, correct.
Okay.
Right.
If I may,
Yep, John?
just as of today, Norris is closed and not open for a town meeting, so I would put the request in sooner than later to get
Yeah.
the school committee to reverse its policy.
Good to know. Yep, good point. Okay. All right, with that, how about moving on to select board reports? Who would like to go?
Well, mine's really easy, so I'll just tell you that the
Right.
Community Preservation Committee is meeting next Wednesday at 5 o'clock. The Council on Aging is meeting next Wednesday at 4 o'clock, so that'll be tricky. And the Board of Assessors is meeting right now at 6 o'clock. But basically, the work of the Board of Assessors, we already heard, is they have a temporary, an emergency person who's filling in for the assessor. They're still posting that position and hoping to get some applicants. And they're having a meeting tonight to talk about valuation. So that's all I really have.
Something for the COA?
Oh, COA, oh, sorry about that. And that's the unfortunate part, that I don't have my laptop with me, but they have a meeting next week. So just to let everybody know that they talk about the 5 for 5 on the grant funding. They just received a grant for a memory cafe. So that just came out today. Everybody's very excited about that news, and it's already sort of in the works for planning. So thank you to the Grants Committee also, along with the COA and Joan Lehan, Senior Senate Director, for all their work on submitting that grant and getting it approved as of today.
Yep. That's a $7,900 grant for about 2-year period, I think it is, yeah. So, great, so very good. Okay, next, Joy? Something?
Can you hear me? I have a lot of papers. So Planning Board met on September 15th. They interviewed the new planning consultant. He was the former city planner for South Hadley and had worked for PVCP before. He has about over 40 years of experience in city planning, a wealth of knowledge. His name's Richard Harris. He's actually already spoken with our PVCP rep that we're working with Housing Authority, Ken Comia, in regards to zoning bylaws and how we can coordinate efforts between Planning Board and Housing Authority and the concerns between the two. So we were happy to hear that. The next meeting is October 6th at 7 p.m. It's virtual, and the information is on mytowngovernment.org. Conservation Commission met. There was an RDA for the Clark Chapman House, so that's moving along. Manhan Meadow Sanctuary grant project, they're flagging the wetland boundaries, and I think they can speak more about what's going on with that in the next meeting. The Pomeroy Mountain, they decided to, they voted to call it the Great Mountain Trail. They're creating a new trail, and it's now just being called the Great Mountain Trail. I guess there's some history with it being called Great Mountain. And actually, I do have these flyers for the rest of the select board. There's co-sponsoring conservation walks this fall. One of the associate members is doing guided walks on the conservation properties at Wolf Hill Sanctuary, Conant Park, which is disability accessible, and Whittermore Conservation Area. So these are posted on the town website and on social media sites and around town. They're free walks, and they are walks have a maximum of 20 people, preference for town residents. To register, you can go to massaudubon.org or call 413-584-3009. They look really fun, and the associate who's going to be doing them is very knowledgeable on the conservation areas. Housing Authority, and their next meeting is going to be they will be here October 12th. I'm sorry, I forgot when their next meeting is. The first Monday of October.
Yeah, I think you said next week, the new member.
Yeah, yes, next week, October 6th, or 4th. Housing Authority, we had our committee meeting on September 22nd. You and Francine were there. We had almost 30 people there. It was really exciting. There was great participation and ideas from the community. A lot of people are excited about affordable housing. So that was great to see that excitement and interest. Everyone was very engaged. We had our House Representative Lindsay Sabadosa came, and she was involved with the different activities we had with the community. Lots of concerned citizens excited about the housing market, or they're concerned about the housing market, so they're excited about us talking about affordable housing. So thank you to the Housing Authority, the Planning Board for their hard work for putting that together, and from our liaisons at PVPC. The next meeting for Housing Authority is October 4th, virtually at 6 p.m. And then Open Space did not meet recently, but they have been in contact with landowners regarding conservation using their land. Landowners have actually personally contacted Kestrel directly in Southampton to have a direct link, conservation restriction with Kestrel. So there's that activity. And the next open space meeting is Thursday, September 30th at 6 p.m. And they're expecting Mark Walmsley from Kestrel to be joining them to discuss Southampton as a priority for Kestrel to put their focus on.
Great, okay, very good, okay. Next, anybody? John?
Sure, I can go. So the, last week, the PQB board met, and most of the items discussed will be coming up later on in the agenda, so I'll save that. And their quarterly report that came in. The primary purpose of that meeting was to go over the rules and regulations, and we made it probably 3/4 of the way through the book. So we're going to have one more meeting to finish that, and then put out a draft version for public review, comment, and hold a public meeting. And then I believe the next step after that would be to forward it to the select board with all the changes and the feedback from the public meetings and all that. So far in the first half, I don't think there's a lot of contentious items. A lot of it's wordsmithing, replacing Board of Selectmen, and things of that nature, but we're just getting to the good stuff. The Finance Committee met last night, and we talked about, or I brought up to them, the financial forecasting tool that Division of Local Services has. They agreed to take that up and work with it. This creates the 5-year forecast of revenues and expenses. I agreed to start populating it. I got viewing rights to the Gateway today from the town clerk, so I can populate the historical data. So we're going back to '06 and building the book forward. After that's done, there should be a request coming forward for a joint meeting of Finance with Select Board. They'd like to get some direction and guidance on where the Select Board sees them, or how they can assist in the budget going forward in that. And they're looking for the, if there's anything we can do to support them in getting 2 more members to broaden that committee, that would be useful. And then tomorrow morning, I will be meeting on the Adhoc Regional Municipal Human Resource Management Service evaluation that I took over from Francine. And we are on our 3rd draft. I believe it's capitalization and grammar now. And this should be going out. The intent is to go out October 1st, so I would just push it out a week. And I think it's going to go out soliciting bids to do an evaluation of the Chester, Westhampton, Southampton, Blandford, Goshen, and potentially Gateway Regional School District for possible consolidated HR services. And I think that's it.
Okay.
I'll see you there in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry, Rini? Yep,
I
question?
just have 2 questions, John. The first is on the personnel guidance for the town. That's a pretty significant document, so that's great that you're getting so far along with it. Has the issue come up that keeps coming up around the whole vacation thing, being, allowed to take whatever you have in the beginning of the year?
We stopped at sick time. So
So
we're going to
you're
pick it up
still
at
working
sick,
on
and then
that?
we're going to go on vacation, and
Okay.
and the suggestions that are in there are, I think it'll be a lively debate amongst the committee.
Yeah, I think that will be a lively debate. And the other thing is, I was looking at the charge from the Public Safety Committee in 2016, and we're going to have to kind of relook at that, because some of them are very specific to what was done in 2016 with the land over there, so it may or may not apply. But one of the things that says that the composition of the committee, I think, is 9 members, 2 from the Select Board, 1 from Finance, and police, fire, highway. So anyway, I didn't know, I think we'll probably meet this first time with who's listed as current members, and then maybe have a discussion before, relooking at who's going to be chair. I mean, I'm just a liaison, but, there's an opportunity for another Select Board liaison, and also it specifies a finance committee. So I just want to let you know that as a
Got back to
liaison. to
finance,
finance.
that's good. It might be interesting, I mean, because they haven't really met recently, so they've been up and down and kind of on a hiatus role, so
Yeah,
you might want to just bring up that whole issue of the charge again and have them,
yeah, it may not
you
even
know,
apply.
look at that and see if that's still applicable, and then, you know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
reaffirm that, basically. But if
I-
it does need more membership, then we can put out the call for that as well.
Yep.
For sure, yep. Okay. That's it? Yep, okay. Francine, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. The bylaw committee met on September 15th in person and then via Zoom with representatives of a company that we've contracted with called General Code, and they will be assisting the town with its general bylaws, zoning bylaw, and groundwater protection regulation. The committee began its review of the organizational plan survey issued by General Code, which is kind of puts together the foundation of how our information will be presented and the ease with which our residents can access the town bylaws and make them as user-friendly as possible. The other major item that we discussed on September 15th was to plan the agenda for the public meeting to gather public comment on the 3 draft bylaws that were publicized: soliciting and canvassing, nuisance/peace and quiet, and building numbering bylaw drafts. We had 13 people participating and who made their comments and had input into the process. They made them public, and in addition to that, we did have, for a period of about 3 weeks, we gathered comments on the bylaw drafts through the town website, and we read those email comments as well, just to make sure that everyone knew everyone's thoughts on the subject who had submitted anything to us. In addition to the committee members, which are Virginia Ahart, Chris Fowles, and myself, I want to thank Police Chief Ian Illingsworth and Fire Chief John Workman for their participation in the public meeting and for their significant contributions to those particular bylaws, which are of public safety concern. The committee will meet again tomorrow to consider the comments that we received at that public meeting for inclusion in what we hope will be our final draft going forward for consideration by the select board and then ultimately by the town. And I just want to mention that the Norris School Committee will meet again on October 13th. That's their next meeting. And I will be joining John at the meeting tomorrow morning, the Zoom meeting on the HR Regional Resource for our town, which is something that I think would be beneficial to us. So thank you.
Good, very good. Okay, all right.
So Norris, the committee hasn't met since the last time we met. I'm just wondering how school's going. I mean, is there any concerns around, are things in place in terms of COVID and protection and everything's okay?
I'll let John speak to that.
Yes, to my knowledge, everything is running as smooth as it can be. We have some challenges in our, there's a current, not a vacancy, there's a current leave of absence that's causing some difficulty, but all reports are positive, or not positive, but all reports are good, and that the busing situation seems to be doing well. As a matter of fact, we had to push all Norris buses are now on a 10 or 15-minute delay from their initial pickups because they're arriving at school too soon. Apparently, there's no longer a backup on Pomeroy Road, so the buses are scooting right in. Or at least, according to the community forum, there isn't a backup on Pomeroy Road. So I think things are going well, and along with that, you know, just I didn't say this in the beginning, but we had a faculty member whose spouse is a member of the National Guard that put forward a consideration to the Secretary of Defense, who recognized Eliza Pluta for her support to the military during the previous year on COVID and supporting spouses of individuals that have been deployed. So that was nice to have a outside event with all the children able to attend and photograph and somewhat sense of normalcy back for the little kids.
Very good.
And if I understand correctly, did this, did DESI extend the mask requirement for schools until November 1st?
It's till November 1st unless you can document 80% vaccination or higher, which is not possible for Norris.
Right.
Okay.
So Norris will continue with the mask, and it's not possible because of the age group of the children there.
Right.
Understood.
Although I will say, the staff at Norris is at 94.5% vaccinated, so.
That's good.
That's wonderful.
Do we have a percentage at New Hampshire?
The last number I had was, it was a blended 67%, but that's a month old. The faculty was 84, and the student body was about 56%. We do have, Stephanie Foss is hosting that free clinic at Hampshire that's been expanded to all the hill towns to go in to try and increase the numbers. And those have all gone out by email blast to the parents.
It's also been posted on our town website.
Yep.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, the Ad Hoc Grants Committee update. Not a whole lot to say. We have 2 new grants that were awarded this week, so that is great. We've put in
Congratulations.
5 grant applications, and we've gotten all 5 grants, which is just sort of amazing in its own right. We're going to be helping out the ITech committee that was here tonight to the extent that they need our input on anything for the final language and wordsmithing of the Community Compact IT grant, which has got to be in on the 15th of October. And we're just going to be looking forward to the next things that are coming up. And so we have the BRIC grant and the MVP grants as likely ones to be the next things that we have to tackle. So we'll be meeting again tomorrow afternoon. We usually meet at 2:30 on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, and we'll be meeting tomorrow by Zoom. And that's about it for the grant committee. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, moving on. Old business, and a lot of this may be you here, I think, the assistant accountant position update discussion.
And we do have, still have a candidate, and we'll be discussing that down further under new business, under the PCF, emergency and regular, for Ellen Kruzak.
Okay. You'll discuss it at that point? Okay. All right. Then the audit update.
And we're still getting questions coming in from the auditors for us to get the answers and get back to them on some of the fiscal year 20 accounts. So Jen and I are going through that and getting them the answers as quickly as we can.
And we don't really know when they might have a draft report then? It's going to depend on
It's going to depend on
that?
Yeah, on the responses, and then if they got any follow-up questions.
Okay. And we did find out, right, that the current audit contract is finishing?
Correct. The fiscal year 20 audit was the last one to be done under that agreement. So now audits done by CPA firms are exempt from Chapter 30B state procurement laws. So it just depends on how the select board would like to move forward. You can either, you can look for companies to do 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. If we go that route, I might suggest, rather than a bid process, that we put together an RFP to go out and do that. Like I say, it's one of the rare exemptions to 30B where you can just pick, if you wanted to, an auditing firm and go with them.
Okay. And I don't see it elsewhere on the agenda, so do we want to tackle here? We had talked about the idea with the new accountant starting, that we wanted him to focus more toward the future and not have to deal with whatever we had been working with last year and trying to figure that out. And so we had talked about some options for what we might do to have someone come in and possibly review our accounts for 21 to see what needs to be corrected or updated or whatever. So do you have any further information?
And then also closing out our books for fiscal
Right.
year,
Yeah.
20, which would mean, the free cash, helping us set the tax rate, the Schedule A.
Right.
Yeah.
And have we been able to reach out to that one firm yet? that we know
I've
of?
reached out, they're going to be looking for some more information, and I've asked John to work with me on helping getting it to them so they can give us a good estimate on what it may cost us.
Okay.
Chris, could
Yes.
I comment on that?
Yeah.
So I think just observations to start with, and then some research that I did that I just want to share with the whole group at once in a public setting, is one, we're in a unique situation for several reasons. One, we pretty much went a whole fiscal year without somebody permanently in the seat, so we know that. Two, our current contract is expiring with 2020.
Right.
So it's not like 21 was going to be the second of a 3-year contract. And I'm sure, while I haven't read it, knowing Melanson and Heath from previous municipal experience, there's a caveat on there that if the work went above and beyond so many hours, there's additional charges. And then I had occasion to have a side conversation or a conversation with the principal of Melanson and Heath, it started off along the lines of what I thought Francine and I were originally charged with, was to identify a town accountant assistant and then see what alternative options would be. And that led me to this. Knowing that the Melanson Heath contract is up, the question is, do we need to have an audit? And there's 4 pieces to that puzzle. One is you have to have an audit if you've expended over $750,000 in federal funds. And it's called a single audit. And you include the Medicare and the Title I money from the school, which is about $200,000. I posed the question to Ed. He did some quick math and believes, I think, that we still have a potential window of $100,000. So we're about $650 that we spent. So that the federal government's not requiring
What
Oh,
about
audit.
American Rescue Funds, though?
Huh?
What about the American Rescue Funds? Are those included?
We haven't spent any money.
We haven't spent
Expended. It
anything.
had
We
to be
didn't spend
expended.
anything 21.
Expended within a calendar year.
Oh, right, okay.
2, if we have any outstanding debt with the USDA. Up until 2 years ago, we did. But our treasurer did a refunding and moved that to another bank and saved, 2% in interest. And I'm sure it was more than that. I know she saved a lot of interest. So, no, we don't have one. So the USDA is not requiring the audit. Then it comes down to Moody's. So if we want to maintain our own rating, which as of today is AA negative, and that's going to be important, then yeah, we should spend the extra money to get our rating from Moody's, which is just coming out of our operating expense. Or for small towns or small issues, and I would say that the town of Amherst falls into a category of a small town, right? We don't have to get a rating. We can go through the state program under what's called the Bank House Notes program. And initially, the thought is, well, but we're going to have to be bonding for a lot of money. Well, the current rating of the Commonwealth is AA. The State House program allows a municipality to borrow at the Commonwealth's grade -1, which is AA minus. So if our rating was AAA, we'd be better off than the state. In this case, we get the same rating whether we spend the money for Moody's to do it, or we go through the state and we save that money. So I would say we go through the Bank House Notes. An example, and I know East Street Bridge is coming up, right? And that's going to be a couple $1 million. This year alone, the town of Amherst, or the city of Amherst, has borrowed $5.1 million through the State House program. And they're paying 0.78 basis points. So I don't see any reason to go the other way. The fourth one, and this is the obstacle, is we have a bylaw that requires it, the audit. So I would propose that we need to spell all this out, and that, in speaking with Tanya, knowing that everything's going on, the cost is going to be absorbent. No one's requiring us other than our bylaw to have the audit. We should take a 1-year reset. Take the money that's already in the budget for the audit, allocate that to a firm, whether it's Melanson or someone else, to come in and do the 21 books to get those done. we still need money, and I don't think it can be Melanson because they're auditing 20
Yeah.
to help close 20. And that could possibly be, that's something else. And then we need somebody to assist with the training with Bradley. But I don't know how much Jennifer spends, or the treasurer spends on an annual basis to maintain the Moody's rating. But if it's an annual number, it's in the budget. And then whatever the budget number is for that. Because Melanson believes the amount of money, you can take our audit number and just triple it, and that's the starting number. If we're gonna pay an auditor to come in and try and clear our books, knowing that nothing's been done. And then we start 22 fresh and rolling forward.
So in 22, you wouldn't still audit 21 at all? Or you
No,
go back to 22-year audit?
there's not gonna be an audit in 21, which, it's a discussion to have. I broached it last night with finance and gave them the same spiel. And that's where I think maybe the joint meeting will come in,
Yeah.
possibly to get feedback. But then I think it would have to go on the December special town meeting to get them to allow us to
To allow a
bypass
waiver
that
of the-
bylaw for 1 year.
Allow a waiver of the audit?
So you said the audit for FY '21, but not 2?
Right.
Well, 22, I would suggest we
Right,
go
I would
back
through
to.
the- yeah. All right, okay.
Right.
Set up
So we're
a new contract with Melanson or somebody.
And what was
Yeah.
the name of that company that you also reached out to, Francine?
It's Ken Scherf.
Yeah,
And I gave Ed the
Eric
number, and he
Yeah.
Ken
talked
Scherf.
with them.
Correct. And that's who I reached out to.
Okay.
So we're waiting to hear from them, yeah.
And our audit runs, what, $25,000, $30,000 a year?
Got 25 in the budget, I think, for the audit?
I was thinking it was 21.5, but I
Something like that.
could be
So
wrong.
around close to 20. Between 20 and 25 is the budget number I think we have, yeah. The only thing, that all sounds quite attractive in terms of the different reasons why not to do it.
Yeah.
The one thing that comes to my mind, Rini mentioned the ARPA, but it's actually, mine was more the CARES Act, because we might have to have an audit through the CARES Act, no? For federal funds, no?
No, because we're not going to reach the 750.
Oh, okay.
That was the,
Okay.
that was the magic number.
That's the magic number,
If-
even-
If we had spent a total of 750 on all grants and whatever in any particular fiscal year, then the single audit provision kicks in, and that's about another $5,000 added to the regular audit.
So it might be something to keep in mind when we think about how we're going to expend the ARPA funds, spreading those out possibly over
Yeah,
3
good
years and not
point.
to cause those triggers.
Right,
Right.
that's a good idea.
You say there was support from the Finance Committee last night?
No, I didn't ask for them to
Okay.
weigh one way or the other. I just threw it out there and gauged their eye movement since we were all wearing our masks.
I think that interest rate is really attractive.
Yeah.
I think in looking at future borrowing, it may make things more possible for us as we, calculate the cost to taxpayers. It's going to come in,
Yeah.
I would think, much lower
Right.
than what we anticipated. So we may be able to get a few more things done.
And we're
in
not
the
part of
long
this
run.
banknotes program right now, or we are?
No, we currently do not do it, and and Donna Whiteley's on the Finance Committee, and she never did it when she was treasurer. She always went through the program. Now, so devil's advocate, if I was the sitting treasurer out here, I don't know, I mean, for this reason, I probably would do it, but this puts all the work on the treasurer.
Yeah.
They hold the auction, they do all the bidding and that process, along with the State House has a very fine-tuned I think it's Bill Galley? Bill something, you got to follow the whole process down to do it, but versus if you go through Moody's, you're hiring a financial advisor to go and do all the work, and then they charge a piece based on our value that gets added on. So I still think it's the right way to go. I just would want to recognize it is putting more work on an existing employee,
Okay,
so.
Interesting.
okay.
So what are our next steps on this? You're going to, continue to get an answer as far as closing of the books for FY '21
Absolutely.
Yep.
and move that? I think it could be helpful for Bradley to have that be one of the first things that happen, I think.
Yeah, like I say, then the accounting department, whether it's Bradley or Bradley and Ellen,
Yeah.
They're focused and just worried about what's in front of them rather than what's behind them. So
Yeah, okay.
I think that's a good move.
Okay.
So
And then-
so perhaps the scope that we're going to That might change some of the wording on the scope of what we're going to ask for.
Right.
And then in terms of creating a bylaw and voting on a bylaw, would that be the finance committee that would create the bylaw?
The bylaw exists.
Well, I almost see it as just asking the citizens to allow us to ignore that bylaw for 1 year.
Oh, okay,
There's a
to waive,
requirement for an
okay.
annual
Waive it.
audit, I believe.
But I think if, so there's a reason why that bylaw is on the books. And
Yeah.
I didn't have enough time to get all the
Okay.
history from the town clerk as to why. But I just think this is not an easy ask to ask the citizens to just trust us and waive it all. So
Yeah.
ideally, if finance was on board and we were on
Yeah.
board and we presented a unified front and articulate, here are all the reasons,
Okay,
it would be better. It'd be better to go to special town meeting unified than,
okay. I'm just thinking, we're already up to October.
Yeah.
And next, we're going to be at December 1st, like really quickly. So just want to make sure that we have a plan, if that's the plan.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we need to certainly continue to find out any more from this other CPA firm to help us close out and do whatever they need to do for '21. I assume finance is not meeting for yet another week or two, couple weeks?
finance meets the third Monday of the month now.
Okay,
They met last night.
Correct.
yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so does everybody think this is something we want to explore? We probably should have a meeting at some point with Jen to understand how she feels about this, if this is going to put a whole big workload on her shoulders, if we went this way.
And in fairness, I didn't discuss this with her ahead
Right,
of time.
right,
So
so, okay.
I'm happy to, if you want, if the board wants, I'm happy to talk to her tomorrow one-on-one, or if Ed.
She was going to watch the meeting, so
Yeah, she may hear it now.
she's, I think she's tuned in a little bit
Yeah,
right now, so yes.
Okay.
It's the only way I know to share with the whole board at once.
Yeah, you're right,
Exactly.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we should probably follow up with Jen.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. So do you want to do that, Ed, or shall we have her come to our next meeting, or shall we? I mean,
Why don't John and I get together with her?
Well, have a
Meantime.
preliminary discussion, but I would like to see, I would like to have something public
Yeah,
as well, following your conversation with her.
right. All right, I would like, just for consistency's sake, I would like us to say if John is willing to do this and be this sort of point person on this, and also in some level of contact with the audit firm, not only because you've had dealings with them before, but you do have some knowledge there, that I would like us to actually designate John to be that point person from the select board to work with Ed, so that it's all clear that John is our person if we have to talk about these issues with the audit firm or whomever else. We're all in agreement that John would be that person. So is everybody in agreement with that process of moving forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
then
I
I would
think
like a motion to appoint
Yeah.
John.
I'll make a motion to appoint John as the conduit between the auditors, treasurer, and Ed about moving this or discussing this further, and possibly bringing it to the town meeting.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, John, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
And it would be great if, when we get there, that we can document all the savings
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the taxpayers. I
Yeah,
mean,
it would
just
have to-
for all the services that we may not
Yeah.
be purchasing, to the interest rate, to
Yeah.
all the other things. That's great.
it would be one of those little document write-ups to hand out to people ahead of
Yep.
time,
White
too.
page,
It'd be-
yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Okay, thank you, John, appreciate that. Good information. All right, Ed, back on, let's see, the Route 10 Bridge Water Main.
Yes, and no update since the last meeting. The contractor and the engineer and the water department met out there and went through and created a punch list of items that needed to get taken care of in the next month. So they have that list, and that will get taken care of. And one of them was the people that have the house at 277 College Highway. And it's actually that whole hillside has to be.
I was going to say,
has to
going
be-
up from the Lyman Mill on the right-hand
Right.
side, that all needs to be
Right.
something done to it.
Yeah,
in terms of the
there are
bank.
portions that have to be graded in there, and and some other things. So, yeah, and that encompasses where that driveway is. So
All right.
that will get taken care of.
Great.
Can I ask, do we pay in full, or do we have some money held back yet until they complete?
All these projects have money held back
Good.
with them, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's always 10% along the way that gets
Okay.
held to the end
Yeah.
until that punch list is completed.
Thank you.
Okay. East Street Bridge update then?
And that's moving along. We'll have some items in front of the Conservation Commission at their next meeting. Eversource has actually started their work moving the poles. They started last week. They're out there this week. And let's see, after them, then Verizon will come in and move the telephone lines. And the last one will be the cable company, Charter, that will move their lines. But Eversource has been out there actually putting the new poles in and moving them. And also there's been some tree trimming done to get ready for the project. So there's a clear avenue both for the poles and the bridge work.
Good, okay. I did have one other one I forgot under my grants committee, so it's a question since we're on construction. The other grant for the cemetery walk, in terms of progress on getting anybody to get that project started?
Yeah,
The sidewalk in front of the cemetery?
That will be out to bid in a couple of days, so, and hopefully we'll get some interest
Yep.
on that.
Okay.
Do I remember right, is the intent for that to happen by the end of this year?
Yeah.
Yes.
To be completed?
Yeah.
Yep, needs to. That was a condition of the grant. It's supposed to be an expedited process with DOT, so it doesn't go through all the levels of the usual DOT-type programs that require a 25% review, a 50% review, and all these fancy design plans. Yeah.
I remember a side conversation that I may or may not had over a chicken barbecue over at Conant Park, that I think we should probably just, if they don't already know it, probably let the water department know about it, because I think they're replacing the water pipes along the cemetery at some point. Or, oh, all right, so it's gonna be 2 years out, but, yeah. But I mean, just, they may wanna say, well, here's the water pipe, you may wanna build the sidewalk here
Okay,
versus over here,
good point.
to avoid it being torn up in
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah, okay. I know when we were working on the grant, Randall was in on it, so, but he may not have all those details from the water
Water.
folks.
Yeah.
So, okay, thanks, Ed, on that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hopefully, we can get that underway and done as quickly as the pickleball courts.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. Next, the Municipal IT Collaborative Membership. So, oh yeah, so this was the, what we had talked about with the PVPC, that I think was in your packet last time, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, about the request to join the PVPC IT Collaborative, with a request for, it's a $400 a year fee to do that. And having been part of the discussion when the consultants came out just to look around Town Hall and look at our IT system and our server and ask multiple questions of Ed, et cetera, on our system, I can say that the two guys that came out and the time they spent, we've already made $400 worth of their time, definitely. So we've got our money already without even being part of the collaborative as far as I'm concerned. But I think there's a lot more that we can benefit from that. So I know we had the comment about the MIA cyber liability coverage, and that is in the package, and we can get a copy of that off to the tech committee. I'll pass them my copy on that. But from what you know, Ed, there was no assessment to be done by that, through this policy anyway, in terms of a
Correct.
cybersecurity policy.
Correct. Like I say, they do web-based trainings, but at this point in time, they do not have any on-site assessment.
Okay. So at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion, if anybody is willing, for Southampton to join the Municipal IT Collaborative managed by PVPC. And that would be my motion, if I can.
I'll second it in
That out there?
the discussion.
Shirley, yes, go ahead.
I just, remind me the funding source? I know it's only
Yeah.
$400, but
$400, we had found, I think, Ed, you had talked about it in one of the other IT accounts that we had.
Yes, and this would be a membership, so it wouldn't be equipment, so I would say it would have to come out of the...
Services or-
Yes, the IT services account.
Which can support it without it going over.
What's that?
It can support this without it going over budget.
It could.
Yeah.
Could or it will.
Well,
Exactly.
I always look at opportunity costs, so if you're going to spend $400 here on this, there's going to be $400 somewhere else that you might have done that you won't be able to spend on, so.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not hearing a ringing endorsement here. So is everybody in support of this?
We just got to realize the savings from the phones for the last 6 months.
Yeah, yeah.
I-
No, and, you
You
know,
can't
I mean,
bank on that forever,
personally, I think
people.
it's a good value, and I would recommend spending the $400, but I have to be honest with you, too.
very good. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Could I have a vote, please? All in favor of joining the Municipal IT Collaborative?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks very much. Moving on, the next one, we talked about briefly last meeting as well, was about this community compact best practices, and focusing more on the finance one to tie into our long-term overarching priority for the select board for the coming year, and that is, there's a page of it back in your package again, this time that had financial management best practices that we were going to maybe take a look at, and we can choose one or two. To my knowledge, it costs us nothing to be part of this community compact. We just simply have to engage and say that we are going to be following through and working on these best practices over the next couple of years, I believe it is. And the community compact people help from the state provide some level of technical assistance and support to help us do a variety of things. Now, one of the ones we had talked about at our last meeting, I think Ed had recommended possibly one that was the third one here, which was develop and utilize a long-range planning forecasting model that assesses both short-term and long-term financial implications of current and proposed policies, programs, and assumptions over a multi-year period. So my question to John, is that the same kind of thing that you guys were talking about with finance, or is that something different? I mean, it's, again, it could be a, it could just reinforce what the finance committee is also recommending for us to really, get involved in this in a serious way. But I know you said you were already doing some work on that, so I don't know if that's the same thing, and if so, do we want to look at other possible best practices that we would rather engage in? I guess my thought was somewhere in here, and I guess maybe it's just the way I was looking at it, was that as we did any kind of forecasting, we'd be looking at things like the fleet plans and when things are coming up and what might come up that we would have to borrow money for. And when we have a short-term debt exclusion or whatever is happening, how does that impact our budget? How does it impact our tax rate? That's the first question that people ask is, okay, we're going to borrow some more money. What does that mean for me and my taxes? And so I don't know if what you were talking about with finance is going to aim at that, or is...
So my,
Yeah.
yeah, so I didn't realize that's what this was. So yeah, you can go on, you can pull all this off of DLS already, most of these. But so best practice number 1 and number 3 is being covered in that document that we started with finance.
Okay.
To your point on capital improvement, that'd be best practice number 4 there. And it's not starting from scratch. I mean, there's already a 58-page book on how to plan out 10 years. And I think it's important, while I understand and respect Margaret's position that, we only had X amount of money last year, I think it's communication. It's, here are all the requests. I know the highway department has a X-year plan to redo every single road in town, but it never gets funded adequately.
Right.
Useful life of a fire truck is what, 12 years maybe? And I have to verify that, but.
Yeah, fire trucks probably between 15 and 20.
All right, you even call it 20 years. If it costs $500,000 for a pumper and $1 million for a ladder, we don't have any ladders, but if every 20 years we got to come up with $500,000, then shouldn't we be setting aside X amount of money in a capital account for that purpose? Same thing with the PD on the police cars, Some PDs have turned over to leases. 30, and because part of the maintenance is all in there, and it's a high-use vehicle that wears on the miles, things to look at out that, and that would all come out of the capital improvement, but I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these, any of these.
I mean, do you think I guess, from my understanding, the advantage of this, I guess, and Ed, you may know this better than I do in terms of how these work, but the advantage of this is that they would help provide some resources to help us keep the process moving and not have it just depend on all of us and our volunteer time. And it would be kind of that outside push to make sure something happened, really.
A written manual, step 2, how to do it, here are the timelines. And
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's what I'm envisioning.
And then that's a manual you'll follow year by year.
But
Right.
are there models of best practices that we could review and replicate?
Yeah.
I would assume
So
so.
that would be,
Yeah, I would assume
that
there
would be
is.
important in.
Yeah. So what you're saying, John, though, is some of this is already, number 3 is part of what you're already thinking about with the finance committee, is that right, or?
That's the Excel that we're going to start working on.
Yeah.
But
And then-
wouldn't this provide the framework or the structure?
Correct.
That would keep it going?
Well, so best practice number 1, this is all through Marcia, right? In her office? DLS and.
Yeah, I believe it
Might very
is.
well be.
So I think you start with number 1. They would come out and they review every current stuff. Then they have a book, so then they would fine tune it to the Southampton side.
Yeah.
There'd be a commitment from the chair of when we did this exercise for Chester, it was the chair of finance, the entire, and a finance committee. And then they had the town accountant, treasurer, assessor, and town manager. And that was the core of the group that
Finance
got
team.
together
Right.
and did all the thing, presented the final book to the select board for approval. And there were some required votes in there the select board had to do to update some town
Right.
laws and that.
Right.
But then once that document's written, it starts driving everything else down the line.
Now, we do already have policies, do we not, on capital financing and use of free cash?
Yeah, we do.
Or no?
Oh,
Or not to the level they're talking about here?
we do on free cash, but not to the extent they're talking about here
Okay,
with the other items.
okay. All right. So we can choose only 2, so if we think we want to do this, could we kind of need to jump on this because it's only available, it's a rolling application, but when the money runs out to help a town, it runs out. So they've just said, if you're going to do it, don't delay much longer because the money's getting lower.
Yeah, I would suggest you start with 1 and 2.
1 and 2?
Because I think finance and I can handle number 3, and then the number 4, if we get that far along, I'm sure once I share all this with Margaret, she'd be able to start working on that.
I would want to include number 3 as among one of the 2 that we choose, simply because we have to get ourselves on some kind of footing with a plan to move forward. And at least with an outside influence by the DLS, I think we might get there faster than we might on our own. Well, you have it already.
Can I just ask Ed, are there any considerations last time, I think when we were trying to piece together a number of things, we found out that we're not going to be able to get funded for spreading ourselves too thin? Does that apply here? For the compact grant, didn't you have multiple different?
That was the IT.
That was the IT grant.
compact
Okay,
grant.
it doesn't apply to the finance one at all?
No.
No, it does apply to the Community Compact IT grant where you can only have 1 project.
Right.
And so that's why the cybersecurity is the issue this year.
Okay.
These, you can choose 2 of these and decide to go with them. You can choose only 1 if you want, but you can't choose more than 2. And it's a 2-year period that you would agree to work on these. So I don't have a sense of how long this process would take us, but I don't know if it would actually take us a full 2 years, but I hope it might not. I don't know. Anybody, other thoughts? Rini and, so Francine's in favor of maybe 1 and 3, is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
And thoughts, just Rini and Joy? Is anything strike you? I mean,
Well, I think that the forecasting piece is the big piece.
yeah.
I think forecasting is very important. I think we've heard it from a number of people tonight, and I just think that we need to, the capital committee does do year to year, and I just think that we have to be thinking in a, longer time frame.
And I think out of that, maybe number 2 will evolve as we see where we're headed and what it is that we need to put in place. I think it would just be a natural kind of outcome of the process of long-term planning.
I mean, it doesn't mean that what you've already started with finance can't continue.
No, if anything, they can just come in and rubber stamp that we completed it.
Yeah, this would,
Right, I mean,
this
because
would
that's
be
what,
help.
yeah, and you can hold on to that. I've got others.
Okay. All right.
But I would strongly encourage number 1,
Yeah.
because that creates the guidebook that
Okay.
leads everything else.
Yes.
All right. So kind of what I'm hearing. Joy, any thoughts?
I think 3 is strong. I think it kind of touches upon number 4 too, capital improvement plan, and number 2, like it's
Okay.
general enough where
Yeah.
it's going to touch on those.
This
So
would be great.
Well, and I think, to a point, I mean, I think there is a way, depending on how we can frame it, I think they would come in and talk to us about what we want to get out of it as well, all right? They're not going to come in and just tell us, well, this is what you've got to do, but they want to hear from us, I'm sure, what it is we expect for ourselves, what we want to get out of this. And so if we say that, out of this, we'd like to at least have some basic, written policies that help us, move forward, I think we could probably make that happen by, sort of inserting a little piece of 2 into some of these others. So, all right, could I have a motion? I think I'm hearing number 1 and number 3, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll make that motion.
All right,
I'll second it.
all right. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, for number 1 and number 3. And Ed, you apparently have the magic passcode from DLS to enter this, but we can work on that.
I know I've got the one for the IT compact grant. I'll have to check about this
Yeah,
one.
it would have come out probably sometime in August. I think they were sending them out if people wanted to use them. So, good. Thank you very much. All right, on to new business, COVID-19. Anything new and update on that information?
Nothing really new. The numbers are still creeping up. Hospitalizations are still creeping up, so
Yeah.
there's,
And we have the,
our county is still in high risk.
Right.
There are 3 counties that have dropped into down a category in our lesser list, but they are basically either out on the islands or in basically, I would say, southeastern Massachusetts. So, it's still a good time to be cautious. I was looking at what Hampshire County's vaccination rate was, and it was actually less than I had thought it would probably be, so we still have some concerns out there.
and John mentioned the clinic that's happening at Hampshire Regional.
Regional
Yeah.
vaccine.
Right. And no new directives or discussions from the Board of Health that I'm aware of?
Not that I'm aware of either.
Okay, all right.
New mask mandate from the governor, though.
Yep.
Is there?
I mean, immunization mandate.
Oh,
Immunization, right. Okay, then we'll move on to the CARES Act update.
and I know you had put a little piece together as far as a report on the
Yeah,
that CARES Act
Right.
funding. It appears that we've still probably got about $100,000 to $120,000 that we could reprogram and reutilize before the program ends.
right. In your package, you've got a spreadsheet that says condition of accounts. Just the first 3 pages of that, or Regina printed this out for me, but the first 3 pages relate to wages, and then page 4 through 10 are the various expenses from the various departments. So the way this at least comes out of the reporting that she was able to format and do, rather than some gigantic Excel sheet, which is a nightmare, this then gives you the vendor and the warrant number and the amount, but it doesn't tell you what department. So to the level that Ed and I then had said, okay, police, for example, here's your money for CARES, library, here's your money, COA, here's your money, the community cupboard money, et cetera. We had broken that down by department. And so what I've been doing, and I will have it for the next meeting, I have been doing a cross-referencing with this spreadsheet to put all of these charges into the correct department boxes, okay? And we're almost there. I've cross-referenced wrongly, I think, some of the police and fire wages, just because sometimes we've had people, or police or fire and highway, because we've had a person who works in two departments, and I may have charged it to the wrong department, but I'm going through that just to double check it, and I will have something for you next time. But like Ed said, we have about 120-ish still to be able to be programmed, and it's going to depend, I guess, on what still fits in terms of the CARES rules and regulations going forward. So with that, we might just jump right into the next agenda item, which is the local school request.
Can I ask a question about this
yes,
first?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Where do you get the 120,000? I mean, I don't see this as, is this like a running subtraction, and it doesn't?
It is, the total
so-
amount, yeah.
So you just deduced that from some other document?
We have the total amount, and I wrote it down and I put it somewhere.
532,000 and some change.
Okay, somewhere around 532,000 was the total amount that we got for the CARES Act in two
Okay.
tranches. So this does not have a starting,
Okay.
what do I want to say? A starting amount, it's subtracted because they're expenses, they're just showing up as negatives on the report. But yeah,
And are they up to
412.
date?
Yeah.
Like, I know we have committed, I think CARES Act is still paying for case tracing, so do
It
we
is.
have commitments between now and the end of the year that will further reduce the 120 to some other amount?
I would say it would probably reduce it down to about 100.
So there'll be about $20,000? Okay. That have
Yeah.
already been committed?
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, the contract tracing is still going, I gather, until December is the last we can spend on it. So that's what it is, yeah.
And let me just double back. You asked about the Board of Health is not taking any action. They were meeting on further action since their last meeting when they did the mask requirement.
Okay,
But they are meeting on Monday. So we'll have something for you.
okay,
at
for the next meeting, great, okay, good. So I will get this so that it's more clear, and we'll get it out to each of the department heads so that they know exactly, within about a 95% accuracy, I hope, of where they've spent their money. Basically, everybody has gotten the equipment and so forth that they've been hoping to get. I think we were still waiting on something for Randall to come in on the highway, but other than that, just about everybody else is good to go with all their special equipment requests, et cetera.
He still has to have his generator hooked up and the propane tank installed.
Right, yeah.
And is there any commitment to each department head that they, like if something wasn't able to be funded or something ended up being paid for at a higher amount, like we know about the FEMA money, is there any kind of expectation by department heads that therefore they get to take that percentage and reallocate it? Or is this now general fund or general, we can reallocate it wherever the need is? Because I did hear comments about, very anxious to know what's the balance and
Right.
what can we get?
I mean, some committees or some departments, for example, may have $3,000 left, others may have $30,000 left. And part of that is because of things that they had asked for that did not get approved or they decided not to do.
Okay.
For example, a public health shared nurse
Yeah,
was budgeted
Right.
at like 30,000 and never
right.
obviously went anywhere.
Well, now they're part of a
And-
collaborative with Northampton.
Right, and so I don't know that we've decided anything in terms of whether that money would necessarily go back to that department. My own thought would be that it would be out there for then, what are the new requests or old requests that didn't get funded
Okay,
that, can still qualify
yeah,
to come in. So I don't think it's going to be going back to the actual department per se. We'd like the departments to use up the money that they had been allocated to the extent that they still have things that qualify under CARES.
Okay.
But that's my thinking on that. At this point in time, some departments have spent basically everything, school being one.
Yeah,
They
but-
have done
Right,
their
so-
full amount, yeah.
We're still under the December 31st deadline, correct?
Yes, we are.
That hasn't been extended. So I mean, I don't disagree with anything that's been said, but I think the first step is to finalize these numbers, then share them with the individual department heads, because one of my questions would be, I can't believe the Board of Health didn't spend the $48,000, that there's a balance there. But based on the explanation just given, I understand that.
Yep.
So it's that's 30,000, that leaves 18,000 there, could be contact tracing by the end of the year, the encumbrance money, that all makes sense to me, but I guess give that number back and say, okay, here are the 1 to 78 items that were approved that made up your number.
Yeah.
We've seen this, this, and this, and maybe you thought this was gonna be 10, but you only spent 8, so there's 2,000 back.
Sure.
What are you gonna get? And then it comes back, because then it can't go to the general fund, it still has to be spent on CARES approved items, right?
Items, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it's all going to be
Which,
COVID related.
and those categories have gotten
They've shrunk.
smaller.
Yeah.
Because FEMA said, okay, we're gonna reimburse 100%, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
So some of that is no longer, some of these, for example, there was, in the first tranche of money, when the first CARES money came out in the spring,
Yep.
before I even got involved with it with Ed, there was, we had to put out a request for money, and I think it was like 300-some thousand for the first tranche. And a lot of that was just really not knowing what COVID was going to do for us. This was like in March of 2020, right? And so there was like, $20,000 for PPE, and it's
Yeah.
like another $10,000 over here for PPE and sanitizer, and it's like, a lot of that got spent, but we also got a lot of freebies, and partly also it was very hard to find some of that stuff early on. So we didn't spend as much on some of those things. So some of it is related
Well, no,
to those
yeah.
things, yeah.
No, I'm with you on all that, I'm just thinking timing, by the end of this week, we'll be in October.
Yeah,
Right, so
Yep.
I mean, not obviously, the next thing on the agenda is a request from the
Yes.
schools that I authored, but I would think that all department heads should be asked to do the same thing.
Yep.
But
Well, I think they've,
have it in by November 1st,
Yeah.
and so that we have November and December to prioritize, and,
I know we've heard from a couple departments that they have something else that they would like to have considered, and we have to just figure out whether it's still going to
Whether it's
qualify.
still-
Yeah,
it's still
so-
eligible or not.
So we have heard from some. I mean, it's been mentioned at your department head meetings, I believe,
Yes.
in the past, so. Okay, so with that, let's move on to the next request, for the local school committee request for transferring some CARES money if available. And John, why don't you take us through that, please?
sure. So if other departments didn't spend their money, and they have nothing to spend it on, I'd like this to be considered.
That doesn't
But-
mean you all get it. Now, let me just say,
Oh, I know.
out of the whole bunch, actually, the school finally did come in with we were concerned because they had not come in with their second reimbursement request from us, but the school was actually among all the departments and committees, commissions, whatever, they received the biggest chunk the first time around. They got 173,000 or something like that, and they have spent it all now, so that's
Correct.
good.
Yep, yeah. So this was, the explanations here, and this was by vote of the school committee, I just authored it as the chair. But if there are any funds that could be repurposed, I'd like to understand if there are any of the amounts awarded to Norris are still in play. That's been clarified. 2 requests for additional funds. We have 2 requests for additional funds, repurposed funds, that is. Both requests, we believe, were 100% related to our response to COVID. With the full-time teachers to 100% remote students, assigning 3 full-time teachers, having to backfill those positions with what turns out to be a permanent sub, which is paid differently than a sub. That account went over budget by $14,000. I gave supporting documents that showed that position we paid $43,000, so $39,000 of it we were able to absorb through our substitute line items. But that's the overage in that account. And the second one is to put the eye waves in the entire school. In addition to the MERV 13 filters, that was a cost of $41,000, and that line went over by $41,413 from the start of the year, and the supporting invoices there. At the end of the year, when we closed our books on the school side, Mrs. Jones shared with us her final year-end transfers, and as a result, the Norris budget is short $12,501. As you know, or I believe you all know, that schools cannot go back to the communities and ask for additional tax money. We get what we get, which is why we hold on to the school choice money, $5,000 per student. That account had to be utilized to make up that $12,501 shortfall. But we wanted to just point out that because of the reduced amount of busing, that the town was going to realize a savings of $48,000, which will end up in your free cash, or our free cash on this side of the table, because of the schools being shut down for a period of time and the reduction in buses and the cost savings that Mrs. Jones was able to negotiate. If possible, if we could get the full $56,000, that would just be ecstatic, but understanding realistically, if we could just make the school choice account whole by $12,501, we would greatly appreciate that. And as I said, the supporting documents are there, so when it comes time to see if there's any money left, we just would like consideration.
Very good.
And the way I read it, I believe that FEMA is now picking up 100% of wages, so that shortfall due to salaries or wages, I don't believe is still eligible under CARES. I believe the I-waves and adjustments to HVAC system still is, but let me look into that for you.
So can I ask a question about the 12,501?
Yep.
What was that shortfall related to? It just, it says that there was a...
I don't have that sheet with me, but at the end of the year, we do the transfers just like on the town side.
Right.
Rob from this count, pay that count that
Yeah.
had zero impact. Well, at the end of the year, we spent $12,501 more than we had.
So was it a variety of line items, you think?
Yeah,
Was
I
it
mean,
any
you could
one
say,
thing?
I can tell you the $41,000 for the I-waves was not budgeted at all. We didn't know that when we set that, and we just made a decision to. When we took that vote, we knew that we were potentially going to dip into the school choice funds. But honestly, the school choice funds are there, the current school committee uses those to augment the pre-K and the school lunches.
I just don't know, without knowing exactly what the funds were for, with the 12,501, that, I just,
Well, for example, we chose not to fill the music teacher
yeah.
last year. So we shifted that savings to cover shortfalls, which covered a portion of the substitutes.
Yeah.
It's just all the budget saving measures that we did. We needed another
I know, but I think that
$12,501.
to request it from CARES, we don't have enough definition of the funds to say that it was, that they'd qualify. I can see the HVAC, absolutely.
Yeah,
Like,
so
that makes total sense.
Right.
And the school, and the substitute teacher, it identifies the substitute teacher in particular out of 3 of them as the special ed teacher. Is there a reason why?
Because of the number of children who opted to be 100% remote required a special ed teacher to be assigned remote.
Okay.
So we had to backfill the special ed teacher within the school
Right.
with a licensed long-term sub.
I'm just wondering, just in terms of justifying the funds from CARES, if there are 3 teachers, is the amount of money for the regular education teachers the same as the special education teacher for subs?
Special education teachers are paid a higher rate.
Yeah, so so that's all, the only consideration I
And
have.
and to that, I mean, again, I would just, if I understand that, and I understand if wages are under FEMA, if we just focused on the HVAC, you know, the 41.
I'm not against it, I just want to
12.
be able to justify it, like
Right.
you take the highest paid teacher to say, let's see if we can get some money from CARES when there's 3 teachers that are kind of hired because of the remote learning. I just want to be able to justify it in the right way,
Right.
that's all. And the same for the 12.5, that's like a variety of things that I can't, we don't even know if
Well, the
those-
12.5 could just be 25% of the HVAC. And then
Right.
we would have to find, which we did.
Yeah.
We'd have to find the other 75% within our budget, which in essence was our not providing any music
Right.
for a full year.
You know, the Hampshire Regional just had a major upgrade of the HVAC, I think in the previous year under capital, I think.
They did.
What's the scoop on Norris? Like, how long ago has that whole system been, I mean, given the pandemic, I mean, other than just the filters, what else?
The HVAC system needs to be updated. The master control boards are gone.
Yeah.
But that's, I think we'd be better off going to MSBA and requesting funds for a new school.
Yeah.
I think we have plenty of town land that's available, right?
Personally, I support the 41.4, and maybe a third of the combined, substitutes, as opposed to identifying the highest paid one is the one funded through CARES, just to be, I guess, fair about it.
Well, I think we just have to double check, though, that, as Ed said, the
Yeah.
salaries may not qualify anymore at all
Right,
under the
okay.
CARES money. So HVAC probably does, and then I think we've got to take into consideration the other departments that have put in
Right,
some
right, right.
requests
I
and
mean,
figure out,
so long as there's funding and the other departments aren't,
yeah, what portion of it. We definitely would like to not leave anything on the table, so
Yeah.
to the extent we can, allocate it
Yep.
correctly.
Well, I'd make a motion to support 41.413 towards the HVAC system at Norris School out of CARES Act, provided that the funds are available and wouldn't interfere with other department requests that have already been committed.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'm happy to second it.
Any discussion about that? Anyone? All right, so this is provided funds are available after as we're looking at various other department requests, right? Okay.
Or do you want to just, I might jump on the gun here, we need to have a conversation.
Should we wait till we get the rest of the
Yeah.
requests before we make a motion?
Yeah, because, perhaps because I'm sitting on this side of the table, I knew enough to get the committee
Yeah.
to put the vote forward. Again, 12,501 is our
I know.
drop bottom
Yeah.
number that we would like. We'll take anything north of that, but we don't, now, if nobody
Let's-
else wants to step up or have
Yeah.
anything, then yeah, give us the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I also just know that next week is October 1st, and I know that we were going through to try to expend those monies before the
Right.
previous December.
But that's
And I
because
just-
we had to order a lot of equipment that wasn't available. This is not equipment type stuff. that
Yeah,
we're
but
gonna
what do
be
the other departments need? Is that, it might be equipment, right?
Might be, but so far what I've seen has been very minor stuff. It's been like hand sanitizer machines and things like that. So
Okay.
nothing huge like generators and things that are, backlogged.
I do agree with Joy, we should look and consider the whole list
Okay,
at the same time.
okay, I'll resend my motion, though.
Okay, all right, so this will be on the agenda for next meeting. We'll talk about it again. All right, good. Thanks, John, for that input, though. That's helpful. All right, where are we here? American Rescue Act, anything new and exciting there?
No, not really. It's still programmed for infrastructure improvements, rental income, help, food.
Yeah, no more details have come out, and we
No,
had talked about,
Yeah, premium pay, contact tracing, vaccination clinics, COVID testing, those items are all eligible. Haven't seen any real, and then it looks like probably doing something with the website would be eligible for ARPA funds. Still trying to figure out if it may be eligible to do a financial software upgrade with the ARPA funds.
That would be
I
great.
think,
It's a little vague
Yeah.
on that, but.
I think on that, Ed, the key would be is if it enhances user interaction. So
Right.
when you're thinking software and the payroll, is the employee able to access their information online and submit updates and forms, like through a portal? Because then that eliminates them having to come in person and actually do it, and allows
Right.
for more of the remote stuff. Much like on the citizen side, being able to pull a permit or doing it online. Some of that we can already do, but,
Yeah.
it's-
Right.
well, we have our e-permitting thing already going on through the building folks, right?
Sounds like even the phone thing would qualify, don't you think?
What's that?
Even the phone
Maybe the
system that they
VoIP,
mentioned
I
might
don't know.
qualify?
The VoIP,
VoIP.
the voiceover.
Maybe.
Yeah. So we need to be able to reach out to whoever our contact is
Yeah,
and
and
get some
find out.
clarity. I mean, we've been waiting on information, and then it's not coming out, or if other towns are getting it, we're not on the list or something, but
Yeah.
if we have a real person we can talk to in Boston or somewhere and
Yeah,
get
we do.
information so that we know this, so we need to be able to move ahead, because here we are again, and I don't want to,
Behind
it's been 6 months since theoretically it's been awarded. right?
Noted,
So
exactly.
We're behind the 8 ball, so let's make that a priority to get some further information. We had talked about maybe having a meeting with the water folks, just to understand their planning of what they have on their agenda that might qualify for something like this. And we're still waiting on the charter people to give us our broadband information.
Yeah, we're waiting for the map.
I don't know why certain things can't be a little bit quicker in terms of their response to us. All right, well, let's keep hunching that, though. That's, with a couple of these other big items maybe out of the way now, maybe we can focus on that a little bit better for the coming couple weeks. All right. Next, revenue and expenditure, 21 update.
And there wasn't any update for 21, just for 22.
21 was going to be related to what we kind of already talked about, right? Reaching
Yeah,
out to
we've seen the last expense report for 21, except for doing the transfers, departmental transfers at the end of the year on it. And then we're just waiting for confirmation of that last packet in the revenues, so that can be posted.
So, given the givens, even though we may not have a CPA firm in to look at it yet, can we expect the best and final revenue and expenditure report for 21 at our next meeting?
I know you can expect the final revenue report. I'll have to actually take a deep dive into what Regina drafted out for the departmental transfers and see if that's all intact and correct, or if there's still other items that are going to have to be added to it.
Okay.
But in terms of revenue.
But revenue, we should be able to
we
know,
should be-
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Because I think that's been the question, not only from ZBA, but from Concom and various other CPC. Just want to be clear of where their accounts are.
Right.
Yeah, okay? All right. All right, Green Community Grant update. Anything there? I know we had asked about any
Yes,
updates there.
and we're in a period where we can ask for specific grant funding, which we actually do have a couple of proposals that I'll bring back to the select board if they want to move forward with. The other item is Green Communities has recommended, since we have such a complicated report process in front of us due to the use of WEX cards, and also the fact that the adjustments have to be made on the electrical usage side because of our net metering and our cow power credits, as they have suggested that we utilize the services of PVPC to do this report for us, which is also eligible to be used from our DOER grant funding. So I would like to recommend to the select board that we do pursue the avenue of having PVPC do our annual report for us this year.
And when is that report due?
I haven't received it as of yet. My memory is that it's usually due in November.
So remind me, we got 138,000 or something like that in the Green Communities Grant. So we got, that was a designation that we were able to receive, but we have to prove energy savings in order to realize the money. And so some work was done
Correct.
over at Norris. And how much, like where we stand in terms of like what's been realized in terms of energy savings.
My memory is we have to show a 20% reduction in 5 years. And Norris was definitely a great starting point, because Norris School and then the water department well, which we probably aren't able to do much with, are our two largest users. So those were good starting points. And then the two proposals that the energy company has looked at is Town Hall and the library.
Okay. We're
And
talking about
and
like
town hall-
insulation?
And town hall is, I believe, our number 3 energy user.
Okay. So then we have to submit a report and show savings, and when do we get the money, I guess is the big question.
Basically, we can get the money at any time. We just need projects that we,
To document the savings.
with documented savings that we want to move forward on, which I think
Okay.
that the two that this energy company has for us are
Okay.
two that we'd like to move forward with.
Okay,
So I'll get that specific information and
Okay.
get it back to the committee for the next meeting.
okay, that'd be great if we can keep it right on the
Yeah,
radar, because we
that's
kind of
good.
took it off the pending items, and I just want to make sure that we
Right.
don't leave any money on the table.
Right, and does the, by having PVPC help us out or do the report for us, does that cost us something, or
Yes, but we are eligible to use some of our.
part of the grant money?
Part of the grant money to
Right,
actually
for
pay
that.
for that,
Good.
so.
That's
good.
I think that's a great idea.
That's good, yep, yes, John?
Ed, so when we replace the lights at Norris, that specific project has to show for the next 5 years that there was a 20% savings? Or
It's-
just on paper?
Just on paper. And I know you may not show it this particular year because you kept.
Because we ran the HVAC around the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah,
But on
Maybe
the
not for the
flip
next
side,
5 years.
so is that an equal trade to all the light savings that were put in or not? I'm not exactly sure, but somewhere in that 5-year
Right.
window, hopefully we're not going to have to run the HVAC all the time to circulate the air.
Okay. So do you want that as a motion to, I'll make a motion to allow PVPC to do the report, provided that the funds are chargeable back to the green communities.
I'll second it.
Good.
all right. Any further discussion? If not, could I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, just a reminder on the Cost Efficiencies Alternative Committee. The committee write-up in terms of what this is all about and who's going to be part of that has been written up and is on our town website under the volunteer section. So folks that are interested, we are looking for 3 town residents with experience in financial management, human resources, and/or operations that would help us out on this committee as we look at a variety of services that the town provides, to look at how we might do things differently, how we could achieve some cost savings, how we could improve our delivery service and make things more accessible to the public, and certainly whatever the ideas we promote are feasible to implement, obviously. And so the committees, we were hoping to have a committee meeting maybe toward the end of October. So to that extent, we'd like to just ask that the town employee groups, perhaps Ed, when you have your next department head meeting, we've got the 3 town employee groups, that they get themselves together and designate their representative that would be part of the committee. And again, the idea would be that whoever that representative is, they would be responsible for contacting the other members of their subgroup and bring forth the ideas and suggestions and having those little mini meetings themselves to be a functioning committee here, hopefully. We would need to also, if we haven't already, just send out this notice to an email or some sort of letter to finance and the local school committee and planning board. I don't know if that happened already. If not, can you work on that, Ed, to get that out to them?
Sure.
And then we said that we wanted 2 members of select board to provide committee leadership. Are we ready to think about who wants to be involved in this amongst the select board? We could at least have 1 step forward on the committee. Personally, I'm going to jump in and say that I would like to be involved in this. I think this is something that we need to really focus on as a select board, and I think, getting a group together, I feel very comfortable trying to facilitate some meetings and get this rolling. So I would throw my name in the hat on this one, and if anybody else would like to join me. Silence.
Jumping on the public safety. Are you taking nominations?
I guess we can, yes. However you want to do this, I'm just, yes.
I'm just jumping on a new one with the public safety, and it also says 2 select board members, so
Yeah,
I think I'll just hold off on this finance one for now.
all right.
I don't have any issue getting on, but if one of you ladies wants it, it's fine with me too. So, I mean, I can always go in under the local school committee.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we'll have a quorum,
You got multiple hats, you can go in and, you could, that's true, yeah.
which will probably be a problem.
Well, I'm sure, there would be some definite ideas there too, so, yeah, anybody? So, Francine? Joe?
Well, I mean, I would like to see John on it if he's able to get on in another capacity.
Well,
And you.
yeah,
you
no,
know,
I mean,
there's no guarantee. Do you want to wait and see if that's how it works out, or?
yeah, but do we run into an issue if 3 select board members are on that
Would be.
committee?
It would
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
It would be a.
So then, I would think that you would want this
Yeah, I mean,
second slot.
if neither one of you is jumping up for joy
Yeah.
and demanding to have the seat, I can play second fiddle to Chris.
All right. All right, so could we have a motion to that effect?
I'll have a motion to appoint Chris Fowles and John Lumber to this new committee, which is called
Cost efficiency.
Cost Efficiency, hang on.
Ad hoc.
Ad hoc committee.
Alternative Committee Discussion.
I'll second that.
Alternative discussion.
All
I'll
right.
second it.
Thanks.
And I would like to know if I could be sent a final draft in a Word document only, not as part of a packet, so that I could share that document
Sure.
with others
Yep.
who might be interested.
Yeah.
Does anybody have the final version of that in a solo Word document?
Francine, you've got it, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, because we definitely want to get the word out
Yeah.
to
Okay.
residents in town who might have the
Right.
skills and, maybe you're
Right.
not part of the usual committee groups that get together, but have got some skills
Right.
and things to offer.
Yes.
And so we'd like to really encourage people that are listening who've got some background in financial management and human resources in particular that would be willing to join us and toss through a few issues of what we can do to better provide services in town and also provide for our longer-term financial health
Okay.
as a town.
All right, I'll send this to each of you in Word,
And
so
we
you
can all
can, you
kinda
can,
get it out,
yes,
yeah.
get it out however you want.
That'd be good. All
And
right.
just so you know, this, a summary of this was sent to the reminder, and it's
I've got
going to
it. I
be
can send it
in
out.
the next edition.
Good.
Yeah, it should be in the reminder maybe this Thursday
Yeah,
as well. So thanks for that too, Francine.
okay.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Could I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye,
All right.
Who seconded it?
Francine,
Francine.
I did, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Attorney General approval of the town and zoning bylaws and comments. We do have the response back from the Attorney General. And go ahead, Ed. I don't know that we need to read all of the comments, but there were some comments on the fire, fire one and the stormwater bylaw, I believe, the two
Right.
of them.
And I would like to recommend to the select board that we have KP Law review the bylaws and the comments to see if anything is major here that needs to be addressed and amended, or if it's fairly benign.
I move that we table this until we hear back from KP Law.
I'll second it.
So we just need to get KP Law to take a look at this, right, so. All right, so that's happening anyway, though, right? Do we need to, or you haven't sent it to them yet? Okay, all right, so to send these, I didn't know if the Attorney General sent it on.
Well, they did, but you would have to vote to actually have KP Law
Okay.
review it and make any necessary
understood.
recommendations.
We got to tell them to turn
us.
the meter on.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, for, once yes, okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second, and a discussion?
Yeah, maybe we can check and see if this general code, would that be something that they would be doing based on the feedback that we got?
No,
From the
this
Attorney
is
General?
too legal, I think.
Yeah.
All right,
I don't think they have that capacity in the E360 people.
all right.
from what we heard the other
I
day.
know, I was hoping that
I don't
we
think,
could find a way to
they're
save
not
some money.
lawyers, they're,
Yes,
that's
I
not their
know.
specialty. So, okay, we have a motion, all in favor of moving this to KP Law?
Aye.
I-
All right. So we will get the feedback on that. Some of it, reading it, looked pretty benign, and it was
Yeah.
more just suggestion to discuss rather than any major, oh my God, you can't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
Madam Chair, before you go on to the next item, can I request special consideration? Because I have the feeling that we're going to get into some lengthy discussions here. Can we move down and pick up the first item under PRF to expedite the chief's retirement from tonight's
Ah,
meeting?
certainly. That's a good point.
The chief's retirement or the?
From the chief's retirement. But he's happy to
I
stay
was
for
going
the
to say,
next
if you
1 hour
want
debate.
to expedite his retirement, you just make him wait.
You meant for the night. For the night.
For this evening, all right. Do you, anybody have any objections to moving on down to the
Not at all.
No,
the PRF?
Oh,
I agree.
All right, we'll do that.
It's fine, though.
And do you want to do the other 2 or 3 right with it there, or?
Yeah, because the other ones really are part and parcel of
Back to
both
the other ones?
categories, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, just the 2 police officer ones, I guess.
okay. Or there's only one police?
There- Eric, down below number 94.
Eric is, yes.
Oh, yeah, there are 2, I'm sorry, yes, okay.
The leave of absence. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a PRF for a full-time police officer in the police department at $24.02 an hour, full-time benefited, and this is for, Ian, why don't you come on up and tell us, this is for
This
David.
may not be in the packet
Just
because
for
I
a,
just,
it's just for a posting,
Yeah,
right?
we did not have it in the packet, I just.
Okay, right, this is just a posting,
I
right?
do have the original.
Okay, so
back
so
in it.
finance had signed off on this last night, I believe, right,
Correct,
for the PRF?
correct.
Okay,
So this is for a vacant position that
Right.
is budgeted for. And, you know, you folks look like you're on track to maybe leaving here at a decent hour, so I don't want to keep you too long. So I stayed just to entertain any type of comments or questions. So that's really why I'm here. And if you would like me to explain some of the hardships we're going through right now with the department, I'm more than happy. However, it's entirely up to you folks.
I think, if I could, I think the key here from finance meetings last night is this is an existing position, it's not new, it's currently being covered with overtime. And so by getting a full-time officer in here, you eliminate all that overtime,
Save money.
provide the coverage.
Yep. Sounds good. So you're going to be putting this up to hopefully get recruiting going and hopefully find somebody without too much delay.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, so can we,
Motion to approve it.
thank you, have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks. The PRF is approved, and then we have one more for the police. We have a PCF for Eric Loico, police part-time, non-benefited, a request for a leave of absence until December 15th, 2021.
Yes, and I am, as a department head, I'm fully in support of his leave.
Okay,
Okay, I make a motion to approve the leave of absence.
I'll
for Eric
second.
Wilson.
all right. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ian.
Hopefully you get out of here on time.
Getting better. Thanks.
Have a good one.
Thanks a lot.
It's
All righty.
nice to see an agenda without executive session on it.
Yes. I was hoping, like, right now we'd be about done, but we're not quite there yet. We're getting close.
Originally, the draft had an executive session on there. The chair had to remind me that we were doing the executive session every other week.
We're gonna take that off till we catch up on those guys.
So,
right.
I'd go along with, continue with what we're doing, and leave the 2 that are in, under new business and under signatures for a separate discussion. So I'm going to recommend that we go to Mackenzie and that's, and David Zagorski.
Okay.
Finish those off, and then we're done.
Anyone have any objection?
No, I'll make a motion that we approve the emergency PCF for David Zagorski, interim principal assessor, and also, if you don't mind, if we group them together, part-time, non-benefited up to 15 hours per week. So this is an emergency and an interim.
Yes.
And this is somebody that we got the information on. He is coming in to help us in the assessor's office. He has a lot of experience with some of the neighboring towns.
Okay,
That is 15 hours a week.
all right. Any Up to 15 hours a week, non-benefited, part-time,
And emergency.
and
Interim and emergency.
Yes, okay, an interim one and an emergency one.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion, any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
And then Mackenzie Williamson, paramedic, fire EMS, part-time, as needed, non-benefited. I'll make a motion to approve that PCF.
And I'll second that.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Take care of those.
Okay.
All right, so let us go back to PCF of the water technician. Is that what you'd like to start with? Sorry.
Yeah.
where am I signing? Okay, I signed that. That's one I signed. Okay, I don't want to mix them up with my papers. Okay, I'm just keeping them separate for right now. Okay, so the PCF for the water technician, this is for Dennis Senecal.
So we had approved it last time pending approval by PQB, and they voted to not address it, correct?
Correct, they sent it back to us, and Ed, do you want to kind of go through that, or John, you were there, whoever?
And John was there. I'm a little confused on it, and okay,
I think,
I can get the part where they want it identified that it's a 2% COLA and a 2% merit increase, so the select board should vote for that. The portion about where they're referring to it is, they've understood it was to also be a reclassification or a rescoring. That I do not remember being. I believe that if that was the case, that the water commissioners have to submit that in
Right.
a separate,
Yeah.
shall we say, a separate package. But all I remember
So the
is that this was supposed to be, it was a 4%, but yes, we did not, I'll take the hit for it. We did not put the note on the PCF that it was 2% COLA and 2% merit increase.
I'll make a motion that we approve Dennis Senecal, water technician, full-time benefited, 2% COLA and 2% merit increase, retroactive to July 1.
I believe we already took that vote.
I think we did too.
We did take that vote.
But it was pending approval by PQB. Now I'm basically making
Now
a
we're just
motion to
doing it.
move it forward with this, with the 2 and 2, retroactive to July 1.
Clarifying.
I'll second.
I will be,
Any discussion, John?
I will vote against that.
Sorry?
I'm going to vote against that.
Why?
Because this is, the PPPB board originally approved a 6%, and this committee slapped their hands and sent it back saying you can't do that. And then we had the executive session here with the Water Commission, and those minutes aren't public, so I won't go into all the details there. But then we did take the vote in public session to do the 2-2 pending PPP, and then we sent it up there, and PPB said that because they didn't, ideally, they didn't like the way the communication came in, they were just going to let it sit there and send it back here for this board to do. So we can take the 2 and 2, and we can approve it, and we can try and send it back up there, but it's not going to go anywhere. And then, you know,
And it was my understanding, though, that Select Board has the ultimate decision-making power. that they
correct.
are
So
the
I would,
advisory.
I would support just giving this poor employee who's been bouncing around the 6% that the committee agreed to, provided that we just sent it up to PPB, or the intent was, so I, you know, the 2 and 4, 4 and 2, whatever it needs to be, the 6, and get this, you know, off the table and move on with the other bigger issues in PPP.
That's what I'm actually doing. I'm
Oh, I
basically
thought you
saying.
said 2 and 2.
It is two
I
and
said
two.
2 and 2. It's against the personnel policies of the town to give more than a 4%. And so we had basically agreed to a 2% COLA and a 2% merit, and everybody seems to be in agreement with that. We never talked about rescoring the position. It was totally not part of what we talked about. I think their objection is that it wasn't spelled out on the PCF.
Yeah,
That it
PCF.
said
It's 2
2%
and 2.
COLA, 2% merit. So I'm going to ask that the PCF be spelled out, that it says 2% COLA, 2%, and that we approve the retroactive to July 1 and be done with it. We heard from KP that we have the authority to go ahead and approve this and move it on, and I'm making a motion that we do that because it's almost October.
Yeah, and I understood the issue to be that we did not specify 2 as a COLA and 2% as a merit on the PCF. That's how I interpret the letter that we got.
So my motion is basically to approve the 2 and the 2 like we did last time. Last time we said pending PQB approval. They decided not to do anything with it. They questioned about whether or not it had to do with if there was any rescoring. I'm saying there's no rescoring, there's no 6%. There's, according to the personnel policies, a 2% COLA and 2% merit, if we can put that on the PCF. And if, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve it as is and move it forward to, so this person can get paid back to our July 1.
And I already seconded it,
Is
so.
that clear, John? Is that,
Oh, it's clear. I'm still voting no, but it's clear.
all right. Are we ready to move it forward then? Any further discussion?
I'm ready to vote on it.
All right, so we have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Any abstain? Joy, were you an aye? I didn't hear you.
Can you, I'm sorry, John, can you explain again why you're voting no? Like, I understand PPP didn't approve it,
I
but
believe that the board that oversees the water commission, or the water department employees, put through an evaluation that did call for a 6% increase. And yes, the PPPB manual says it's 2 and 2, but it says it's a guideline, it's not etched in stone.
Oh, that's not what it says. Oh, I'll have my laptop.
All rules or all votes all come back to the discretion of this board. And in my particular stance, I look to that elected board. If that's what they voted through and that's what's in their budget that supports, then I'm going to support that independent board, regardless of the infighting between the select board and the PQB. But that's just my stance.
But the same thing that applies, that the select board has jurisdiction over the salaries for the PQB and the water commission. I mean, the same, it applies to both. And so we exercise that discretion, and instead of 6%, we did 4%. I mean.
Great, and this is a democracy, and I can vote
Okay.
against it.
Okay.
I don't support that position.
Okay.
So,
All right. So Joy, I didn't hear your vote.
so if it's in their budget and that's what, I'm gonna vote no.
Okay. So we have a 3-2 vote. Motion passes. All right.
right.
So can we just, well, actually, never mind, I withdraw.
All right. And the next one, then. Our PCF, emergency PCF, and emergency PCF for the Assistant Town Accountant, Ellen Krusek, part-time benefited 20 hours per week. And then we had a regular PCF, also part-time benefited 20 hours per week for the Assistant Town Accountant.
I'll make a motion that we approve Ellen Krusek's PCF for both emergency and interim or permanent assistant town accountant, part-time benefited 20 hours per week.
I'll second that.
All right, discussion, please. And
Do we have any updates from legal counsel that might guide us through this vote?
Yes, we
Yes, we
have.
do.
That was
It
sent
was
to
in the
us.
packet.
Yeah.
It's in the
That
packet.
could possibly either be read into the record or made
Yes.
part of the record?
Yeah, we'll do that.
I'll be happy to.
Yep. Ed, if you can find it quicker.
So, would it be okay if I just say a few words about this as sort of the historically? Originally, we received the PCF, and it had a single-digit amount on the PCF, and the select board voted in favor of using a range. I know because that's the only motion I made as the chair of this committee, was I think the department heads should be the ones that decide on the pay of their employees or applicants. And so we had asked that there be a range and not a solid figure, basically deciding how much the person should be paid. So then it went, was posted, and so that's, I just wanted to make a mention about that.
And posted like in early 2021, so
Right, so there
under,
was a posting that was made initially of a single-digit amount.
Right.
And then subsequent to that, there was an Indeed posting that included a range for this position.
okay. Yeah. Ed, further comment from the lawyers?
Sure. I'll read the letter from the PPB first and then the town council's opinion. Dear Ed, on September 16, 2021, the PPB voted to send back the PCF for Ellen Kruzak, Assistant Accountant for Wage Classification, to Ed Gibson, Interim Accountant, and to the Chair of the Select Board, Christine Foles. The PPB respectfully requests that we be given an explanation of how the $19.66 pay rate was determined. Although funds approved at the annual town meeting would have allowed for a rate up to $19.66, the PRF was approved and posted at a rate of $17.54, not a range. The PPB has no record of a change in pay. It is our concern that if the position was posted at a range of up to $19.66, you may have attracted additional qualified candidates. Town Council's opinion. Hi, Ed. I'm following up on the attached request for information from the PPB. As I understand the facts, while the job posting on the town's website included only one pay rate, $17.54, the job posting on Indeed included a pay range that was higher than $17.54 per hour. Thus, with this additional advertisement on Indeed, it appears that the concern the PPB noted, re attracting a broader pool of qualified candidates, was satisfied. Given that the attached correspondence also questions how the $19.66 an hour rate was determined, I note that the personnel rules contemplate that a PRF shall contain a pay scale for job vacancies, see section 4-3A2, and that new hires can be paid a higher rate than the minimum rate within the approved wage range, with the ultimate approval of the Select Board, Section 8-3. Moreover, the Select Board has ultimate authority to approve, amend, or disapprove, with or without modifications, a PRF, Section 4-3A6A, as well as PCF, Section 4-4. I read these provisions together as indicating that there needs to be a wage range for a position and not simply a single hourly rate considered by the PPPB, and that while new hires generally are expected to start at the bottom of the pay range, the Select Board may ultimately approve a higher rate within the approved pay range for the position and subject to sufficiency of appropriation. And then I'll just remind the Select Board that for the purposes of the fiscal year 22 budget, this was one of the positions that the Select Board identified as being low in comparison, and did vote to do what I believe was a 2% COLA and then a 2% on top of that, which brought it to the $19.66, which I also would recommend that we write to the PPPB, because that was their
Right, that was their
request, and tell them how the
Right.
Select Board arrived at the $19.66.
Right, that was the request in their letter on the explanation of how the 1966 was determined. Okay, so with that explanation and with the information from legal counsel, does anybody have any further thoughts or questions? Yes, John?
Well, I just kind of want to reiterate one point that's in here, Ed. The posting on Indeed indicated that there was a range, correct? As said in the first paragraph?
Correct. It was actually a range between $17 and $20 per hour.
Okay. So I think so when this vote was taken to send this back, this went 3-0-1. 3 in favor to send it back for clarification, nobody against, and 1 individual abstaining from the vote. And just speaking for myself as why I supported it is to come back for clarification, is because there is a section in the PBBB manual that says that the posting has to come before the group and be approved. And based on that and what was in the file up there, it only showing the 1754. So knowing that and being able to go, and at that night, I didn't go on Indeed to find the posting to say, oh, well, here's the clarification. But had we been able to pull that up, I'm pretty confident that that would have swayed my vote and probably another individual on that board. So that being said, I make a motion that we approve this at the 1966.
I think I already made a motion.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Well,
Chris seconded.
And it was seconded.
Then I abstained.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Any further?
Could you remind me of the motion? Because I lost it.
I made a motion that we approve the emergency and permanent assistant town accountant part-time benefit 20-hour per week position to Ellen Krusek.
Thank you.
And I believe I seconded it?
Yeah.
Yep. I did. Or did you, Francine? Sorry,
I think I did.
Would you?
Francine seconded it, I think. Sorry, Francine second. All
I
right.
had you as second and
I think it was
Chris.
Francine. Okay, so all that, if there's no further discussion, can we take a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. No objections, all in favor unanimously then, unanimously. All right.
And when would you like to have me see if she can start?
How about Monday?
Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
All right.
That would be great if she's still interested and available. I mean, we cannot
Yep.
afford to have this position vacant, so if there's any reason for an emergency, this is it. We need the assistant accountant. Okay?
All right.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, thanks very much. All right, I think that takes care of things on the PCF side and all that. We have one thing, just briefly here, an invitation from the Easthampton Congregational Church Food Cupboard. And that, I guess, Ed, all I see, this is, it's just that the Easthampton Congregational Church, I believe, is setting up their own food cupboard now, similar to what we do here in Southampton. And they're having an open house for people to come and take a look at what they're doing in case there are people that would like to participate in their food cupboard. It's from 10 to 12 on Saturday, October 2nd. So that's sort of similar to what we do here in Southampton. I have no idea how extensive it is. I think they had one some months ago or maybe a year or so ago, but if I recall, it wasn't overly accessible. The way their church is laid out, it's a very different setup to be able to access the food cupboard. So anyway, that was just a letter addressed to the select board for that purpose. So with that, we are done with new business and signatures. Do we have any other business that can't wait until the next regular October 12th?
Yes.
Yes, Jen.
Just because the discussion was held in another committee in a public setting that triggered 2 additional legal opinions, I don't know that they need to be read into the record, but, one of them called into question and potentially implicated this board in an illegal act, which the legal opinion is against, that we were within our authority to appoint the town administrator as the acting town accountant. As well as and I should have mentioned this before when the PPB comments came up, that, they were waiting for the legal opinion to move forward. That has come out as well. I don't know that they both need to be read in, but I think they should be accepted formally as part of our package so they become public documents. And then I know that the one that they're waiting on has already been shared with the PPB board, but, it's as an elected official in the town, it's very difficult to go to another committee meeting and be told that accused of acting illegally in a meeting. So I'm grateful that the law department believes that we acted fully within our rights. I just don't want that message not to get out there to the public, and they only hear one side.
And I agree with you, and I think we should read that. I know it takes time, but
I also think that we have to be cautious because it's attorney-client privilege, and I think we have to each time decide whether or not it's a public document for sharing, because there are times when I don't want to set a precedence that
Right.
every time we get an opinion,
Yeah,
that we
that we have
read
to
it,
actually
because
read
it
it.
may not be appropriate to do that. I think these are very appropriate, although they're lengthy, because she quotes Mass General laws and so forth.
Well,
I agree with you.
You're right, and I'm more concerned about the one that says that we could not appoint the
Right,
town administrator.
right,
So, I
right.
mean, that one's a shorter statement,
Yeah.
but
Yep, I agree with you.
it's already out there as part of some public record that we acted illegally, I think, or potentially.
Right.
It was a very contentious meeting.
Can you put your hands on it if you would like to go through and actually just read that in? We may as well.
You have it handy?
It's got mixed in my package here. Sorry.
I don't think that one's in your package.
No?
That we got online, I thought.
Was that just on an email?
If you want me to, I can go get it and I'll read it into the record.
Oh, we've got it on email here?
I know I
think
printed a
have an
copy.
email.
I can find it, hold on. I have it here.
I have it.
Go.
So the author of this is Michelle Randazzo, dated February 17th at 5, this says 5:33 PM, but I
February
believe
17th?
Friday, September 17th.
Okay, thank you.
I'm mindful of the statute below, but in my opinion, the statute references to 3 years or 5-year term of office is meant to apply to a permanent accountant and not a temporary or acting accountant who is only holding the position while the search for a qualified permanent accountant is conducted. Indeed, as a particular matter, there needs to be a town accountant, and if there is a vacancy, someone has to perform these essential functions while the search for a permanent accountant is conducted. It is not a reasonable read of the statute, in my opinion, to state that the Select Board has no authority to appoint a temporary or interim accountant in that situation. In fact, the personnel rules clearly contemplate this, where they define an interim/acting employee under Section 1-4 as, to parenthesize, an existing employee who temporarily performs additional functions in another position that is temporarily vacated. I also note that provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, subsection 108N, that allows the Select Board to contract with a town accountant for a period of time at its discretion, regardless of the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, subsection 55.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's pretty clear, so in the record, so I think we are correct in what we have done, and that should put that to rest for any time in the future. And then this was a question too.
I had a,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just had another question
Yes,
about, we have a document that it looks like it's balances and revolving accounts. Is that,
No, that was
What
part
is
of the CARES stuff, sorry.
that's all part of the CARES stuff?
That was
too?
part of the CARES stuff that I'm
Oh,
still
okay.
working on, so that was just showing you, there's some things that have to be rectified in there.
Oh, okay.
So that,
All right,
yeah.
right, you're fine.
Sorry, I didn't label the
Yeah,
top
okay.
thing. Yep. There is another document that talked about
The Jacob study?
the Jacob study. How do we want to handle that one? It's a lengthy one to read. Do we really want to read this into the record, or
Well, I
just
think-
summarize it, or what would you like to
I
do?
think summarizing it would be good.
I'd rather read it.
I'll read it into the
Yeah?
record.
Okay.
Okay, it's lengthy. Go for it. So-
Hi, Ed. I have been asked to opine on a vote taken by the Select Board at its May 12, 2021 meeting to use a previous classification and compensation study for purposes of setting the fiscal year 22 budget, in particular for calculating COLAs for town employees. The question has been raised as to whether it was within the Select Board's authority to do so, where it is asserted that the PPPB did not hold a public hearing on said study or make a recommendation to adopt same to the Select Board. In my opinion, the Select Board was within its authority to do so. I have reviewed by the meeting minutes and meeting video of the Select Board's May 12, 2021 meeting. It is clear that the Select Board did not vote to adopt the so-called Jacob study or the February 2020 document apparently authored by Art Lawrence as the town's classification and compensation plans. Instead, as indicated at the May 12, 2021 meeting, the motion was merely to use the study as a reference for preparing the fiscal year 22 budget. It is inherent in the Select Board's authority under Article XLII, Section 2 of the General Laws to promulgate and present the annual budget to town meeting, to ask the voters to fund cost of living increases for non-union personnel within the confines of what funds are expected to be available for that purpose. There is nothing in the personnel bylaw or personnel rules and regulations to the contrary, in my opinion. Stated another way, neither the personnel bylaw nor the personnel rules and regulations foreclose select board action in establishing the budget, including COLAs, in the absence of a recommendation by the PPPB. Practically speaking, this has to be the result. Otherwise, a defunct or non-functioning PPPB could effectively hijack the budget setting process, at least with respect to personnel wages. General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108A, which provides for the establishment of classification and compensation plans, does not contain any process for how a classification and compensation plan is created prior to submission to town meeting. Indeed, how this is achieved varies by community. For instance, some towns annually present the full classification and compensation plan to the annual town meeting, adjusting the pay band for each position to include the COLAs for the upcoming fiscal year, as well as to incorporate any reclassified positions if necessary. Other towns simply include in the annual budget any wage adjustments such as COLAs. Those towns may or may not periodically update the overall classification compensation plan through a formal process as necessary. Notably, technical compliance with General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108A requires that the town adopt a bylaw in order to establish or amend a classification plan. Establishment and amendment of a compensation plan requires only a town meeting vote. Just as General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108A distinguishes between classification and compensation plans, so too do the personnel rules and regulations. The PPPB is only charged with the responsibility for conducting periodic studies of the classification plan, Personnel Rules, Section 7-3. There is no similar charge with respect to compensation plans. See Personnel Rules, Chapter 8.0, or even a formal requirement that periodic compensation studies be performed. This distinction is reflective of the reality that changes in overall classification of positions occur much less frequently than changes in compensation for positions, and in fact can be accomplished in the manner done here, namely inclusion of COLAs in the annual operation budget approved at town meeting. With all of that said, it does appear as if there is some confusion, however, over whether the February 2020 document referenced above, ostensibly from the PPPB, was in fact ever voted on by the PPPB itself. That is a separate question. It would certainly make sense for the Select Board and PPPB to have additional discussions on this topic, as was suggested at the Select Board's May 12, 2021 meeting, would occur in the future, particularly where there is a desire to formally amend the classification and/or compensation plans. Please do not hesitate to contact me with any further questions.
Okay. Thanks. And that was an email, again, from Michelle Randazzo of KP Law. All right.
Can I ask a question? And I don't know, John, if you know this or whether you can ask at the next PPPB meeting. Back when this was all being done and we voted to use it as a guide, like she said, there was some question about what the PQB had done or not with the existing chart that they were using. I thought that they added 2% a year, and in fact, there were 2 years that no raises had been given to town employees. So is the current chart that they're using reflective of when COLAs were given? Because it was an outdated chart, and then my understanding is they added 2%, but they added it to years when there wasn't even a COLA. There were 2 out of 3 years when there were no town raises. So I don't know if you can just check that. I'm just curious to know if that's what they're using, does it accurately reflect what was done?
Yeah, I'll find out.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion on that? I think this is all good food for thought for not only discussions at PQB, but also certainly with the meetings you're having tomorrow with the PVPC folks on the whole HR situation that I'm sure is not just Southampton based, but various other towns are in similar situations of needing to have some further clarity and consistency within their own personnel rules and regulations. So.
And I would remind the board that the last, what I'll call bullet point on the written PPPB report for tonight is that they also recommend that the town look to hire
Yeah.
at least a part-time HR professional, and that's one of the things that DLTA grant is looking for on a regional basis.
Right, so, good, okay. All right, any further items that can't wait until our next meeting? And just a reminder, are we going to be doing a meeting on next week, executive session? Will you have executive session things ready for next week?
Yes.
or- Okay,
What time will that meeting be?
we were talking the 5th, was it, next
October
Tuesday?
5th, yes. So is that at the usual time, 6, or some other different time?
What are we, what's the agenda for the meeting?
It would just be executive on
Yeah.
dispatch and highway and,
Is it all the contracts or just a couple of them?
Just be highway and dispatch.
so the 5th,
What,
we had said we might meet at 5 o'clock, if that was good for everybody, but
what could, Select Member Piper, what time does your soccer practice get done?
It's done at 6:30.
Mine too.
at 6:30?
Is it possible to do like 6:45?
Oh.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm flexible.
I'm
I
fine
don't know
with
about you
that.
guys.
Yeah.
I'll bring in my cot.
Well, just so we can attend one soccer practice.
Soccer practice would be nice.
Is it October,
nice.
October 5th, which is next Tuesday
So 6:45?
at 6:45?
Sorry, Ed.
That's okay.
That's fair, that's fair.
Is that an issue for Ian or Randall, do you think?
It'll have to not be.
Okay.
I don't think they have soccer.
No.
No, okay.
Okay, all right, so let's,
You know, I'll be out of town for the following week, the 12th. I
Okay.
won't be able to come.
all right. Okay, well, we'll get you for this one anyway.
Yep.
Good, all right, thanks for that. All right, moving on, could we have the warrants, Francine?
Sure. PD 22-8C for $3,184.14, and PD 22-HV for a negative $3,184.14. The total amount was the same. The difference in the two is that the allocation for benefit coverage changed. It was categorized wrong on the one warrant and corrected on the other, but it did not increase the cost at all. And finally, the next one is W22-11. ENC stands for encumbrances of $10,352.50 for the vendor account payable. W22-11, another vendor account payable for $249,871.26. P22-12 is a payroll warrant for $282,550.13. And warrant W22-13, another vendor account payable warrant for $147,215.65.
Okay, good. Anyone have any questions? All right, if not, we don't have anything else to sign tonight. How about minutes to approve? We have August 10th, 2021, and August 24th, 2021.
Motion to approve August 10th.
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Or do any have any notes or any errors anybody found? No?
No, I just want to draw everybody's attention to the legal opinion in the August 10th on page 3. We just went over it. I just want to see that it's reiterated in the minutes.
In page 3?
Page 3 of the August 10th, under Town Council legal opinion. In midway down the
right.
page.
Right.
Regarding to the Water Commission.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay, all right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And, sorry, that was a motion for both of them. Was there anything on?
It was actually one just for the 10th, I think.
Was it just for the 10th?
Yeah.
Yes, it was just
I'm
for
sorry,
the 10th.
okay.
Motion,
So,
motion to approve the 24th.
okay, all approved on the 10th, and then on the 24th,
I'll second it.
all right. I just had a question, on page 3, there's a select board to designate chair of the Board of Water Commissioners, and it looks like it's kind of crossed out.
Yeah.
And I think that what that was, if I remember now, I know I at least had confusion when they were talking about that night at the meeting, but I had forgotten that was part of what had been put forth as part of an article at town meeting, was this asset management planning study. And so we were just asked to approve that retroactively. And I think that's what it was, but this looks like it's been crossed out,
Yeah.
and I don't know why that was. I think it's just a typo.
Yeah.
And just where it says Chair of the Board of Water Commissioners, so I think
So
if
it
we
shouldn't
can,
be crossed out.
yeah, it should not be crossed out.
Right.
Well, but if you read the next section, it says it's not the chair of the water commission, it's actually the water superintendent. Let's sign it.
Yeah, okay, true. So, okay, so maybe that would be,
I remember the conversation, I don't remember the
Yeah.
specifics.
well, it could still be there, but does it need to be crossed out? Because then
Yeah,
that
right.
second paragraph does say that it's recommended to authorize Tom Gahn, Water Superintendent, to be the signatory.
Right,
And that was what was approved
yes.
and voted on to be signed retroactively for the DEP Asset Management Planning Study. So I don't know that
Should we just say select board to designate Tom Gahn, Water Superintendent?
As the
The authorized
authorized
representative?
I think that cleans it up,
If you follow what
I said.
the template is, that without the cross out was the agenda item. I think what she's trying to call attention to here is the fact that it was the wrong title, because that was originally what was in that.
Oh, I see.
In that document,
Right.
until I checked with KP Law, and they said.
Okay.
Oh, I
Yeah.
get it now.
And he's not the chair of the
Yeah.
board,
Oh, that makes
he's the
sense.
water superintendent.
Yeah, it had to be the
Okay.
select board
Right.
doing the
Okay.
designation, and they didn't want the water commissioner. They wanted the water commissioner, not the chair, to be the designee.
The water superintendent.
Okay.
Yeah, right,
All right.
right.
So does it stay that way?
I would say
To
it
show the
should,
correction?
I would say that it should stay that way, would be
Okay.
my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay, just looked on. All right, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes as written for August 24th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimous. Thank you. Great. Any other pending items? We have naming rights, Old Town Hall, Charter Building on Fulmer Road, and the Clearwater Woodland boundary.
No.
Nothing new. All right. We will get to them at some point, but not yet. All right, with that in mind, I don't know that we have anything else on our agenda. Could I have a motion to end our meeting tonight?
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
9:16.
we are done at 9:16.
It helps not having executive session.
So
That was a
we
good
wait
decision.
them to turn it off?
Yeah, I think they hopefully will turn us off.
Thank you. And I've got, this one is a corrected copy, so don't fill in the date, because I'm gonna have to go back
Go
in
back
and
and,
look and see
okay,
the actual meeting date.
okay.
Okay. All right, so
Thank you.
have that. That would be good.
Bye,
Thank you very much.